Good evening. Welcome to the 2014 Sioux Falls Mayoral Candidate Forum. We have two candidates vying for this position this year. I am Amy Scott Stoltz, moderator for today's forum, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls. Today's forum is being held at the Carnegie Town Hall, where the Sioux Falls City Council meets. Our forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate their partnership and appreciate the participation of the mayoral candidates. Our forum is live on March 19th, and if you're watching at this time, you can call in with questions by dialing 367-8080. You may also email questions to clerks@siouxfalls.org. Today's forum is also being web streamed and is available for viewing at www.siouxfalls.org under the City Council Meetings link under Key Resources. The forum will also be rebroadcast on CityLink Channel 16 several times prior to the election. We hope you will encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to view and become informed voters. Voting is April 8th. The voter registration deadline for this election is March 24th. Tonight, our candidates will have 90 seconds for introductions, and as we present questions, they will each have 90 seconds to respond. At the end of the session, there will be 90 seconds for closing comments. There will be no rebuttal time. We are looking for audience questions. For those of you here in the audience, there are note cards for you to write your questions on, and our runners will pick up those questions from you. From there, League of Women Voter volunteers will sort the questions and direct them to me only if they are ones that all candidates can address and they deal with issues that may be faced by city government as opposed to any issues that would be addressed in federal or state government or by the school board. Please write legibly and realize that we may not have time to get to all questions. As we start, we ask that you turn your cell phones to silent, and if you need to hold a conversation, please do so outside of this room. The first introductory comments will follow in the order in which the candidates appear on the ballot. So we will start with Mr. Jameson.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And thank you, the League of Women Voters and the Chamber, for hosting this event. This is my third event, and the stress never leaves, I guess. So just a little bit about myself. I come from a large family. I grew up in Sioux Falls. I'm one of 9 kids. I've been a small business owner for nearly 20 years. We have, my wife and I have 2 grown children, Dan and Jessica, and they both live here. I've been elected twice to the Sioux Falls City Council, and I'm tremendously proud to be a part of Sioux Falls and all of what's happened over the years. Going into the future, I've got a plan to deal with some challenging issues that we have facing our city. Our city needs more than a cheerleader. It needs a leader. We've got 3,500 people coming to our community, and there's challenges that come with that. We've got a lot of work to do. I'm excited about the opportunity to be your mayor, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
Thank you. Soon after I was sworn in as your mayor, the hardworking employees of city government and our proud citizens started tackling all kinds of important goals for our city. We rebuilt and repaired over 300 miles of roads, invested in parks, bike trails, sewer lines, public buildings, and yes, city employees. Our city's employment rate has almost been cut in half. We've renewed confidence. We're buying again, we're investing in, and yes, we're hiring again. Over 3,000 jobs have been created last year alone. Our new event center opens in September, on time, within budget, and 85% of the jobs created are local. We broke our city's construction record as early as October of last year. We've tackled tough issues like pension reform and whether we should test snow gates or not. We've tackled 4 emergencies over the last 4 years, including the April 9th ice storm. We're getting things done, Sioux Falls. We are. We've come a long, long way, but I know, and you know, we're capable of so much more. I truly look forward to talking about that tonight. I, too, want to thank the League of Women Voters. I, too, want to thank the Chamber of Commerce. And I want to thank all the folks in the audience here tonight and that are watching on CityLink. It means you're engaged. It means that you care. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question tonight, and we will start this with Mr. Huther. What do you see as the biggest issue facing the mayor's office in the coming year?
Well, I look at things a little bit differently in terms of issues. I probably look at things more like opportunities. I think that some of the things that come our way are things that you can truly, if you go at them the right way, you can turn any issue into ultimately an opportunity. Our town is growing. It is. And I believe that we've got that opportunity to stay one step ahead of that growth. But you do need to have great leadership to make sure that you do stay one step ahead of the growth, such as ensuring that roads are built at the right pace, other infrastructure is built at the right pace, that you invest in things to ensure that your community stays safe, and so much more. It's a great problem to have, growth. There are not many cities around the country who would not want to change places with Sioux Falls, South Dakota right now.
Thank you. Mr. Jameson.
Well, the biggest issue facing the mayor's office in the upcoming year is going to be returning trust to elected officials. Over the last several years, we've seen an erosion of that trust. And the ballot that we have in front of us on April 8th includes 2 referendums and 2 initiatives. That's never happened before in the history of our city. That speaks volumes about how the public is feeling about what we're doing. The mayor's office needs to work very hard at providing solid leadership, but as well providing that confidence and trust in government to let everybody know that we're working for the people of Sioux Falls, not our own self-interest. So rebuilding trust is a big project for the mayor's office to restore. Our growing population, that growth that we're talking about, that's our lifeblood. The council and the mayor's office need to work together to find solutions to absorb all those people in our community, provide them the quality of life that we've all enjoyed over the years. So I've got 2 items that need to be addressed: rebuilding trust in elected officials and our growing population.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Jameson. As you know, traffic is very congested around rush hours. City is making some good improvements. How would you proceed considering more people and traffic?
Right, easing that traffic congestion is a part of my People First initiative. I call it Fast Track, Forward Adaptive Signal Technology. It's all about changing the way our road system works and creating a smart roadway system. If we have these adaptive traffic signals that automatically adapt to the flow of cars that are traveling through our roadways, we have a chance to maximize our existing roadways without adding new lanes. It's our first opportunity to maximize the efficiency of our city. So the city has adapted and put in some of these traffic signals on the east side of town. The state of South Dakota is going to incorporate a large section of 41st Street to include these signals. But it needs to be another resource that we, as a city council, address and fund in the upcoming years so that all of us get to wherever we're going faster and happier.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
I think we've come a long way towards this, but we still have a ways to go. First of all, the first step was to improve the roadways of our town, and we've done that. Over 300 miles of roads have been repaired, rebuilt, and ultimately strengthened. That's step 1. But also you need to do things like invest in technology, traffic light technology. We've been doing that in your town, for example, on 26th Street. Folks, that's just the beginning. We need to take the things that we've learned at 26th Street and then take that to 41st Street, Cliff Avenue, and so many others. Not all of this, though, is rocket science, and not all of this costs money. You know, for example, just changing the traffic light pattern during the wee hours of the night when we're all trying to get to the airport. It didn't cost us any money to make those lights from just staying red flashing so that we could proceed safely, but yes, proceed on our way. And then, of course, collaborating with folks like the state of South Dakota and others. on incredibly important projects like Highway 100. Those are ways that you keep Sioux Falls moving. Even when we have 3,000 to 4,000 people moving here and bringing their cars, bringing their trucks. And then one last thing. Public transportation is also another critical thing that we have to invest in, and we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Huther, you'll start with this one. This is on paratransit. With demands increasing faster than revenues and reduction of federal funding, what do you see as the future of Sioux Falls paratransit system?
Well, public transportation and certainly paratransit is something that we care deeply about in this city and always have. Some have actually called it, one of the best in the country, and we're probably not far from that. We care about people that have challenges in their life that ultimately, such as ensuring that people that have paratransit needs are served. We'll continue to invest in that. But at the same time, we do have to look at public transportation and paratransit as a whole. We do. And included in that are some tough decisions. Right now, it costs us almost $26 for a paratransit ride. We're charging $3. As hard as that is for me to bring up tonight, we have to. As a city, we have to. But I'm confident we're doing well, Sioux Falls, and we can meet the paratransit needs, we can meet the public transportation needs of our city, and I look forward to making that happen.
Thank you. Mr. Jamieson.
Thank you. The future of the paratransit system is very much in flux. Councilor Rolfing and myself put together a task force to address this issue because we knew that the future was very dim. Federal funding is failing away. We've got more riders. A lot of people move to our community because of the health care that's provided here. Sanford and Avira, Children's Care Hospital, Avira, all those people provide great services, and paratransit is under a tremendous amount of stress. So we got together as a council to figure out what can we do. What we did is we brought all these community people together, Sanford, Avira, Children's Care, the VA, all those service providers in our community who work with people within the paratransit needs. We brought them to the same table so that we could come up with solutions for the future. The first thing we've got to do is identify that we have a problem and address it. That's what we're doing, and we're doing it as a community. So the future at least has a chance, and we're working hard to provide a sustainable solution for the long term. And Councilor Rolfing and I have worked hard on that.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, if you are watching live on March 19th, you can call in a question by dialing 367-8080 or email a question to clerks@siouxfalls.org. Again, that's March 19th only. Our next question, we will start with Mr. Jamieson. This is on city and county governments. City and county governments need to work together. At times, there seem to be quote-unquote turf issues between city and county. What can be done to increase cooperation?
Sure, thank you. Over the previous two administrations, the Hansen administration and the Munson administration, the mayor of the city met with the county chair of the Minnehaha County Commission once a month. That's how you build the partnerships, that's how you work together, that's how you understand what challenges they have and what challenges the city have. And then we work together as a community to try to figure out, well, what's the answer? Well, over the last 4 years, those meetings haven't occurred. And I don't know why. It's pretty easy. It's a great opportunity to get together with those in our local government, like Minnehaha County Commission and the Lincoln County Commission. Yes, there's turf wars. Yes, the county wants some of our sales tax money because they've got issues that they can't solve on their own just with property taxes. The biggest thing we need to do is just talk. Talk about the issues that they have, to talk about the issues we have, and at the end of the day, hopefully we can provide some solutions. There's a lot of projects that we work together and we own the buildings or pay for the operation of certain buildings. A lot of collaborative efforts that have been going on for many years. So I think if we just continue communicating in the ways that have been done during Hansen and Munson, I think we'd be all better off.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
The collaboration efforts between the county and the city are rock solid, and have been and will continue to be. There's an open door to the county at any time. There's an open door to the city at any time. The county commissioners know that. The city council knows that. This mayor knows that. We work in collaborative efforts in so many different ways. How? Keeping our public safe. The collaboration effort there is just so incredible. During the April 9th ice storm, folks, the county picked up the pace at such a great level, as well as the city and the state and the citizens and so many others working in collaboration. Things like the Sioux Empire Fairgrounds. You may not know that, but we're working in collaboration there to make that an even better environment for the people that go to the Sioux Empire Fair. As well as the county allows us to utilize the Sioux Empire Fair in different ways, whether it be training our police team, working with our fire team, and so much more. The collaboration efforts between the city and the county are really good. Could they be better? Are there silos? Sure there are. There's silos in city government. There's silos in business. There's silos everywhere. What you do, though, is you recognize those and you work together in collaboration and ultimately to break those down and make good things happen.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Huther, is on recycling. What can be done to offer individual incentives to recycle, not just the garbage haulers?
Well, I am a big fan of recycling, and I'm proud of how far the community has come in terms of this effort. But we certainly need to do more, and we've worked towards that effort. Now, some of these have been where we've had to hold haulers accountable, and that's made a difference. Our recycling rates have gone up dramatically. But we can't just rely on the haulers to make a difference when it comes to recycling. We've got 160,000 citizens of Sioux Falls that can also make an incredible difference if they just take advantage of things like single-stream recycling and things like that. We are working hard to try to motivate the citizens to do just that. Incentives are things that we've really not tackled it at the highest rate yet. Certainly would be open to looking at that. We've just hired another gentleman to help with our recycling efforts who's bringing some new ideas to the table. But again, I think that one of the things that we certainly can do better is recycling. And here's one of the reasons why we need to do it. Our sanitary landfill is a great resource, but it's unbelievably expensive to maintain. Every time that you recycle, you're saving taxpayer dollars. That should be incentive enough.
Thank you. Mr. Jameson.
Well, very good. That is a challenge, giving the incentives back to the individuals who are creating the debris versus the haulers. And actually, to be fair, listening to the mayor speak and about the idea that the landfill is a major expense for the city. And so this idea just came to me. So it's half-baked, but it's the way it is. The idea is that we have to spend millions and millions of dollars to expand our landfills. But because we're doing so much recycling, well, we don't have to expand it as often or as big. So maybe some of that money that isn't spent on expanding our landfills because we had to, because of the debris that's collecting, maybe a portion of that money could be rebated back to the public. All those homeowners who are paying for landfill service, they're helping us. So if they continue to recycle and do a great job, well, that helps all of us. We spend less in government money on these landfills, and so if we're saving money there, let's let the homeowners save it. That's just the idea that popped in my head. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. We'll start with you on this one. It's on affordable housing. What is the city doing to create housing that is truly affordable for people who are earning minimum wage or a little more?
All right. Well, recently the city proposed and adopted a $500,000 grant to help developers build affordable housing and incentivize others to do that project. But it's very hard and it's very limited. The growing number of people who are looking for affordable housing is tough to keep up with. And what I'm learning is that affordable housing is a band of affordability. It isn't $200, it isn't $400. It's a band between $200 and $600. So it takes a lot of effort on all kinds of different places and parts of town in order to make that work. We can't just authorize and build in a big apartment complex and call that all affordable housing and hope that everybody moves there. That's not how you want to do things. You want to disperse that all throughout the community and give everybody a chance. It's a challenge, believe me. The best thing we've done so far is to try to incentivize developers to build it on their own. And I guess we should just continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
Affordable housing is an issue that is exasperated even more when you have more and more people moving into your town. You have supply and demand. Well, our issue is that we've got heavy demand for affordable housing right now, and the supply is limited because of, again, folks that are moving in. We have invested more in affordable housing projects in the city of Sioux Falls over the last years than we ever have in our town. And it's still not nearly enough. It's still not nearly enough. We can do more. But it doesn't have to be publicly funded. We are working with private investors as well, private developers as well, to take advantage of some incentives that can provide more affordable housing opportunities for the people that live in our city. One of the things that I'm also excited about is that we're not just putting affordable housing projects just in the inner core of our neighborhoods, and we're also putting them on the outskirts as well. And that's an important thing. And I'm really excited about that. And then one last thing when it comes to, not only do we have to focus on affordable housing, but we have to make sure that the housing that we do have is safe, it is sanitary, and it is decent. I'm really proud of how the city has tackled that, and we'll continue to do that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you're writing questions, please write them so that both candidates can answer them. Please do not address them to one candidate or the other. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Huther, is on pension reform. Please explain what happened regarding pension reform and the impact it has and will have on city employees.
1,130 employees, government employees, union employees, they voted for revising the pension system. That is amazing. There are cities and counties and states all across the country that just put their head in the sand and will never tackle pension reform. In Sioux Falls, they did. They worked together. They found common ground. They infused compromise. They used common sense. They communicated at levels that you can't imagine to tackle pension reform. And because they did, Sioux Falls taxpayers, you folks are going to save approximately $300 million over the next 25 to 30 years. What an effort this was by human resources, by all of the entities that were involved in the pension boards, and again, those 1,100 city employees. They got together, they worked together, and ultimately they found a solution that most other communities, most other states wouldn't take any chances on. Why? It's just too tough. Wasn't too tough for Sioux Falls.
Thank you. Mr. Jamieson.
I think the impact on the city employees is going to be minor over the years to come. The exciting part about this pension reform is that the employees are the ones who voted for it. You know, when I was sitting in the council and we were discussing this issue, it was clear that they were the ones that were in charge of their own destiny, which seemed odd to me, being on the city council and authorizing and spending all the city's budgets. that these employees were in charge. They were the ones who could decide if they were going to take this change or not. And they voted for it. That's a tremendous thing. We should be very proud. I think they knew that the future of our city needed changes. They took it upon themselves, they voted for it, and they should be commended for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is one that was emailed in. And Mr. Jameson, we'll start with you, and I will read it as written. What are your plans to address the increase in crime, felony crime up 28.5% in 2012 alone, and poverty that has occurred during the last 4 years? Why have the media, TV, radio, and print, and the city been silent about this quote-unquote incredible record?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of parts to that question, I suppose. Why the media hasn't paid attention to it? Well, it's not very nice. It's not very fun. It's not very exciting, I should say. Certainly, I've been trying to address it. It was only several months ago when I was at the county commission and I learned of the new numbers that we have. The county is struggling to build a new jail, and the only way they can do that is to raise property taxes. So I wanted to go and hear their problem. And that's when I learned about the growing crime problem. Felonies are up 48%. Assaults are up 50%. Robberies, 56%. So I devised a plan working with retired police officers and existing police officers, and the idea is to try to prevent crime. One of the ways is to hire more patrol officers so they have a chance to interface with the public. They have a chance to take these people out before they commit their next crime. We need to have a sit-down meeting with all the social service providers in our community and figure out what is it that's causing the problem. Is it poverty? Is it meth addiction? What is it? And as well, we need a task force to tackle the top 10 worst violent people in our community. There's a lot of police work that needs to get done. That's how we need to address the growing crime problem.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
When you're the mayor of Sioux Falls, you know right away what you need to focus on. The number one factor in the quality of life of the people of this town is whether they feel safe. I knew that 4 years ago, and I still know that today. That is why when Chief Sedaris, Chief Barthel, when they speak, I listen, the city council listens, and we all listen. We know they're the experts in terms of ensuring that we are ultimately safe. Over the last 4 years, we have hired 15 police officers. And if we needed more, we would hire more. But folks, you need to understand something. There has never been an amendment to my budget, Mayor Mike Huther's budget, or Mayor Dave Munson's budget, our recommended budget over the last 6 years. Why? Because the council knew that we were addressing this challenge, keeping our people safe. And we'll continue to do that. We have implemented things, not just hiring officers, but also implemented things like neighborhood patrols, downtown Sioux Falls patrols, and more. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Huther. Would both of you be willing to sign a pledge that would guarantee the citizens of Sioux Falls that you would not invest in any projects that would be influenced by the mayor's office? Mr. Huther.
Well, the mayor's office has the ability to be involved in all kinds of different things. When you are the mayor of the city, you're actively engaged in just about everything that's going on in town. I think the opportunity is how do you deal with those opportunities when they come? What I've always done is I make sure that my head, my heart, and my gut are focused on the people of Sioux Falls. That's how I've done my decisions in the past, and that's how I'll always do them. I think that something needs to be understood. Way back in December, I personally requested a Board of Ethics opinion when I heard that this was being brought up. The Ethics Board reviewed my wife's involvement and my involvement in TIF 11. It's this topic that everybody is talking about right now. And they unanimously held that we not only met, but we exceeded all of the requirements, and that both of us acted ethically and legally in all aspects. This opinion, way back in December, it was immediately released to the City Council, the media, and the public. The goal was that we could maybe release it in hopes that we could get back to the people's business. Sadly, that's not happened.
Thank you. Mr. Jameson.
Well, without avoiding going through all the details of the timeline of exactly what happened, it just so happens that I happen to have a pledge here that I have signed. And I'll give up the remaining 60 or so seconds to allow the mayor to sign it right here and now, if you'd like.
Not at this time. That's not what this form is for. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Just a reminder, if you are watching this live, you may phone in questions at 367-8080 or email a question to clerks@siouxfalls.org. Also, if you're in the audience, there are note cards for you to write questions. Hold them up and one of our runners will come and get it. Our next question will start with Mr. Jameson. It says, the city continues to grow at a really good rate. How can we provide sufficient services for those new neighborhoods?
The first thing we need to do is build roads to those new areas of town. The old adage has always been this: private money follows the public money. And what that means is that the city needs to build infrastructure like sewer and water supplies to that area, a new arterial road. After the arterial road is built, the developer has a chance to build all the neighborhood streets. But they can't do that unless they get the arterial road built there. So the city has to invest more money to get that done, and it takes a lot of money. Fortunately, we have a lot of cost-sharing rules and regulations, I guess I should say, ordinances that require that cost-sharing to occur. But it provides an opportunity for these parts of town, all of our parts of towns, to grow. The city is growing tremendously with 3,500 some people moving here. They need a place to go. But we've got to do it, and we've got to start it with public money. The private money, the other developers, and the home builders, they will come. But we've got to be the one to lead that. And we've got to do it in a smart fashion so that we don't create another 41st and Louise. And it takes thinking well out in advance, kind of like thinking about what's going to happen after what happens next. That's how far out you need to be thinking. And I will do that as mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
First of all, I want to let the people of Sioux Falls, I want to give them a confidence level that even though our town is growing, the town is prepared to handle that growth. We will stay one step ahead of that growth in the city of Sioux Falls. And we've got a lot of good things going for us. One of them that I think is just so critical is that we actually have the funds to support this growth. We've got record sales tax revenues. We've got record property tax revenues. So the revenues that are coming in to support the necessary expenses against the infrastructure, that's there. So feel confident there, Sioux Falls. We can't just start with the roads. You actually have to start with the plan. And you have to make tough choices on that plan. Everybody would like every part of town to grow, but that's not the way that you can do it because, again, funds, even though they're higher than expected, they still have to be prioritized at a very, very solid pace. Water lines, sewer lines, roads, parks, fire stations, and so much more all have to be taken into the mix. Sioux Falls, your town is ready. Your town has reserves, your town has revenues, your town has good planning mechanisms, and as a team, we will work this out and ensure that we stay one step ahead of growth at all times.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Huther. How does the mayor influence airport airline service, employment, construction, and other items?
Well, I think that ultimately the mayor or any leader, they are there to try to influence, to try to cheerlead, to try to make a difference, and yes, at times, to push and maybe even hold some people accountable in the spirit of making more things happen for the town. And you mentioned such a wide variety, whether it comes to, jobs or construction or affordable airfare or what it would be. I think the main thing to understand is that this stuff doesn't happen on its own. It is a true collaborative effort to make good things happen. Let's just touch on affordable airfare, for example. It's such a collaborative effort from the Airport Authority, from the Air Service Committee, even, yes, the Chamber of Commerce and their involvement, a public input, a Dan Letlier, Sioux Falls Community Development, and so much more. They work in collaboration to try to make not only business travel better for Sioux Falls, but leisure travel for the city of Sioux Falls. That collaborative effort has made such a big difference in just Sioux Falls alone. There was a time when 4 out of every 10 people who wanted to fly out of Sioux Falls, they went somewhere else. Because of that collaborative effort, that's been cut in half.
Thank you.
We still have a ways to go, but I'm happy how far we've come.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson.
Could you read the question again for me?
Oh, certainly. How does the mayor influence airport airline service, employment, construction, and other items?
The biggest way you can do that as mayor is to provide confidence to the public that we don't pick winners and losers in our community. We've got a lot of credibility that needs to be established in the mayor's office. When winners and losers are picked by the city, it creates favoritism. And all of a sudden people feel like, well, they're outgunned because they're fighting against City Hall. On the City Council, over the last 6 years, I've passed and approved hundreds of zoning changes to provide for better growth. So we need a positive, growing community. And I've done that for 6 years. The Airport Authority is an independent body. The privilege of the mayor is to appoint individuals to that authority. They are a whole separate entity that funds themselves and can authorize subsidizing new airlines to come to our community to provide low-cost airlines with the hopes that they'll stay. I wish that the mayor's office controlled the unemployment rate or the construction boom that's occurring in our community, but that's not the case. We can't print money. We don't control the prime lending rate. The mayor's office doesn't need to be just a cheerleader. It needs to be a leader in our community. And that's the solid difference that we have. It's your vote in April 8th to make a change. That's our vote.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Jameson. What 2 leadership qualities do you possess which uniquely qualifies you to lead this dynamic city?
First one is listening. The first one is listening. It's a funny little story I'll share with you just real quick. I've only got one good ear. I was born with an issue that I don't hear out of this ear at all. So growing up, I spent a lot of effort trying to hear people. I'd have to read their lips, turn my head so that when my one good ear would listen. So it's just a trait that I've developed over the years because it's a lot of work for me. But when you do that, it really sticks in because you're working harder. You improve your senses. So listening is a good part. The other part is vision. Thinking in the future, thinking long beyond today. Just think of our Lewis and Clark project. It took us 20 years to get water, clean water supply to our city. That takes vision. Those are the 2 qualities that I think I bring to the mayor's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
Well, I think that I bring some qualities and some experience to the mayor's office, and I think the people of Sioux Falls have seen some of those. I work incredibly hard for all of you. It is just it can be a blessing, and it certainly can be a curse. But I think that by me working hard and also instilling things like coaching, like motivating, like encouraging, like working in collaboration, when you throw all that together, along with the 25 years of business experience, 4 years learning as your mayor, when I think you throw all that together, it certainly, I think, gets me prepared for 4 more years to do more of the same, if not more. These things don't happen because of me. What happens when you're the mayor, or what happens when you're a pastor, or when you're the CEO of a company, or the governor? What often happens is that when things are going well, they look to you and they give you probably undue credit. And yes, when things don't go so well, you probably get maybe a bit more blame than what the pastor or the coach or the governor or the mayor deserves too. But that's all about leadership.
Thank you. Our next question will start with Mr. Huther. Is there a redundancy of services and an extra tax burden on Sioux Falls property owners? Could you envision combining and having a reduction of city and county government to give some tax relief to taxpayers? Mr. Huther.
That's a very good question. And it kind of leads us back to that original question that came up about collaboration between county and city government. There have been strides made towards that over the years. There have. Are there still opportunities? Absolutely, there are. But this is one of these challenges that has been discussed for generations and generations, not only in Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, Lincoln County, but across our entire state. I think, though, that for me, when I earned the honor and I was blessed to serve all of you as your mayor, my first goal was to look within city government to see if we could make it more efficient, more accountable, more productive, more service-friendly, to get a bigger bang for your taxpayer buck. So whoever asked that question, I respect it. But before we look for, potentially opportunities with the county and the city, to me, I think that we should focus on city government first. And I'm so proud of how far we've come. You've got those 1,100 city employees that are thinking differently, thinking outside of the box, looking for waste, looking for opportunity, looking for risks, finding new ways of doing things to be more productive and ultimately saving you money.
Thank you. Mr. Jameson.
Well, certainly there are a redundancy in services. Take the sheriff's department, for instance. We have a police department. There's all kinds of ways that they could cross over, but the problem is the county is much bigger than just the city. If the city encompassed the entire county, well, then we could probably eliminate some of those county services. But that's not the way it is. There's funding mechanisms set up by state law that require things to be done in certain ways. So there would be a lot of changes that would have to be voted on and adopted to eliminate county governments. Certainly we wouldn't want to be the ones to be absorbed into the county, right? We'd want to keep it the city's control, right? Well, there's a lot of turf wars that go on with those kinds of thoughts. And Lincoln County and Minnehaha County, both within the city limits, now that means 2 county services. Do we need 2? I don't know. Maybe we could get by with some cost sharing by having one central service in Sioux Falls, so those individuals who live within Lincoln County don't have to travel to Canton to get their license plate. Well, they've done some changes. There's opportunities. I don't know that we could ever be successful in eliminating some of those county-provided services without state legislation changes.
Thank you. Our next question, I'm going to combine a couple of questions. These are all on Spellerberg. Do you personally support an indoor or outdoor aquatics facility at Spellerberg Park? Why is this the only location that was suggested, particularly when the ballot initiative doesn't even speak to the building of an indoor aquatics facility? And if the voters approve an outdoor pool at Spellerberg, will the city also proceed with an indoor pool in the near future? So a few different questions we're combining on the pool at Spellerberg Park. We'll start with you, Mr. Jamison.
Well, thank you. Yes, Spellerberg should have an outdoor pool. I think that Spellerberg is a neighborhood park. It is not a citywide destination. It was designed as a neighborhood park. The people who live there, people who bought homes near there, did that because they wanted a neighborhood park. Lots of questions here, but do I think we need an indoor pool? Yes. We need it in a place that has great opportunity for growth. Places where we can add and expand it. So we've got a place for indoor basketball, a batting cage for baseball, softball, a climbing wall, a walking trail, a place to play Frisbee, all those kinds of things. So when mom and dad come to the pool, some of the kids can go swimming, the other kids can go play basketball. Spellerberg does not give us that opportunity. Now, where do we build it? That's our next challenge. We do not have a plan B for our indoor pool. Plus, we need a lot of partnerships in order to make that indoor pool work, because it's going to take a lot of funds to make it operate. But it'd be a great opportunity for our community. We would all probably benefit in some fashion from an indoor pool, but Spellerberg is not the place. We need a place that has plenty of room and a bigger opportunity. We need to think bigger than Spellerberg.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
We've been talking about a indoor public swimming center in Sioux Falls since 1961. It started with Lincoln High School in terms of how we were going to put it all together. It's been over 50 years. And we're still talking about it today because we've not found common ground. We always find ways to disagree. We disagree on how we're going to pay for it. We disagree on, what should be included in the indoor aquatics facility. How big should it be? We disagree on things like location. At some point in time, if this city is finally going to address this need for our city, we're going to have to find some common ground. Councilor Jamison wanted a aquatics master plan put together before we picked the location here in the city of Sioux Falls. Councilor Jamison and the council, they wanted an expert opinion on where it should be located. It's not an easy thing. They looked all over town, but ultimately the expert, the aquatics master plan, chose the Spellerberg location. Is everything about this perfect? No. But if we're going to ever get this thing done,
thank you.
We're going to have to find some common ground.
There's your time. Thank you. And the next question, we will start with Mr. Huther. What are we going to do about parking for the new event center when we already have a parking shortage in that area?
Well, actually, one of the things that was discussed in a great way before we even voted on the event center was to develop a plan to make sure that we did have adequate parking. And so included in that was adding additional parking lots, taking the existing parking spaces that we had and reconfiguring those as well, working in collaboration with the Sioux Falls School District as well to maximize those opportunities, looking at other alternatives such as whether it be shuttle service and things like that from Elmwood Golf Course or whatever it would be. And so before we even move forward with our new event center, that was a topic that was discussed in just a grand way. And then we executed that plan. And you can see if you go out to the new event center, and I would encourage all of you to do that, you'll see the improvements that have been made. When we open up that new event center in September, and I'm certainly excited when we do, there will be adequate parking for all of you, for the visitors, and we're fully prepared for that. And then in those instances where you'll have those 3 big events happening at the same time, we'll execute other plans that will take advantage of some other amenities that we have there. So, for example, like Veterans Park, for example. If we have to shuttle folks from Veterans Park for some of those extra large events, we can do that and so much more. We've done this for other big events, and we can do it again.
Thank you. Mr. Jameson.
Back in 2009, when the City Council first voted for the event center out at the arena site, our plan included removing Howard Wood Field because we understood then that we needed more parking. We had to do something different than just changing the direction of the stripes on the current parking lot and think that that would solve the problem. That plan failed. At the end of the day, it failed. I think the first thing we need to do about identifying a fix for our parking problem is to understand that there is one. Unfortunately, that isn't going to happen until we have our first big event out there. And somebody who's paid maybe $140 or $150 for 2 tickets doesn't have a place to park. And they're going to be upset. I think it's a problem that we've kind of pretended doesn't really exist. I think whoever asked the question, and a lot of us understand that there's a problem, and it's hard to address. Adding a parking ramp is not popular. It's very expensive. But that would be a great addition to the event center to have a parking ramp built there. The building is being built. The issues will exist. Adding a parking ramp to the building, like what others have done all over the country, is a solid solution. Pretending that there isn't a problem is not the leadership that we need. The other part we could do is just designate an area, that's the new event center, and you've got to ride a shuttle from that parking lot to the event center. And if we can get people committed to arriving at that predetermined destination, that could help the problem.
Thank you. I believe this will be our last question. This has to do with the Walmart on 85th in Minnesota. I'm combining a couple questions here again. These were emailed in. Do you support building a Walmart at 85th in Minnesota? And do either of you have financial interest in the 85th and Minnesota development or the 85th and Western development? We'll start with Mr. Jameson.
Well, thank you. No discussion is complete without Walmart. It's followed us around, it's followed me around in this campaign for months. The council voted on the zoning at 85th in Minnesota 7-1. I was the one who voted no. I didn't think that the buffering that was provided in that plan was appropriate. Single-family homes were going to be impacted in a way that they shouldn't have been impacted. All of our other efforts in the city are always designed to protect the value and the quality of life that we have in our single-family home. I don't think we did a good job on that vote. Is it the end of the world? Probably not. I don't support it being built there. Certainly other things could be built there other than a Walmart that's 24 hours, 7 days a week, 190,000 square feet of some sort. There's all kinds of other development that could occur there and provide the proper buffering. That's not in place at this time, and no, I do not have any other financial interest in any property in that area. I live near 69th and Western. My home is near there, but I have no other property investments.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
Right, and I don't have any property investments there as well. One thing that came up earlier is that, well, there's all these things that are on the ballot because of lack of trust in government. In the city of Sioux Falls, when things happen, when there's a bevy of activity, and when you have things like a new development coming up, you're always going to have folks that are going to be concerned, and they should be. It's their neighborhood, it's their home, it's their family, and so they're going to organize and they're going to communicate and they're going to discuss things like this. And I certainly respect what those folks did that are out there near 85th and Audi, and I think all of Sioux Falls does, and they understand it. However, this particular topic was discussed over and over and over again in very, very public ways. The Planning and Zoning Board, they discussed it at least twice. The City Council discussed it at least twice in hours and hours of discussion. And then Sioux Falls, behind the scenes, the city councilors were meeting for hours and hours with the public on this, including, yes, this mayor. These decisions are so hard. They're so hard because every time you do something in a community, you're going to impact somebody.
Thank you. We will now go on to closing comments. You will each have 90 seconds for closing comments. And again, we're going to go in the order in which you appear on the ballot. So we will start with Mr. Jameson.
Well, thank you again for coming tonight. These are always exciting opportunities. All those counselor candidates who are out there, now you've got to hear all the questions, so you should be prepared for your time to come. I wanted to say that I really have enjoyed being on the City Council. It's a real privilege. Serving as mayor would be a major privilege as well. I'm excited about that. Win or lose, I'm still going to be on the City Council. I decided to get into this race because I think we could do better. Or I could maybe just not say anything and ride along. But I decided to get in the race because I wanted to do better. We deserve better. I have a lot of family who lives here. I grew up here. I have a lot of pride in this town. Our future is incredibly bright. And I'm excited just to be a part of it already. I think serving as mayor would just be another added benefit. And I think I can help. This election provides us with new opportunities for new beginnings. A breath of fresh air, a chance to put the people of our city first and not our own elected egos. I'd very much appreciate a chance to serve as your mayor, I really would, and I would ask for your vote on April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Huther.
I started this by saying that I'm really excited how far we've come, but more importantly, where are we going? Well, Sioux Falls is going to stay safe by investing in law enforcement, fire protection, and code enforcement. We're going to stay one step ahead of this growth and maintain this beautiful and well-planned city. You know I'm a big fan of orange barrels. We're also going to be extra frugal with your taxpayer dollars. When this city's next emergency comes, and it is going to come, we will be ready. We will not only open our new event center in September, we're going to operate it in the black. And the project that was almost dead, the rail yard relocation deal, it will be signed with Burlington Northern, and then we create history in this town. And finally, we're going to keep working together. Collaboration has been so vital to our success. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to head back to City Hall. That is where I work. And I want to keep working there. I have as much passion and energy for this role as I did 4 years ago. I work right beside 1,129 city employees who are just as passionate about the city as I am. We're all working hard. I'm never going to take this role as your mayor for granted. Thank you for letting me be your mayor.
Thank you. We did not get to all questions tonight. Some questions we did not get to included medical marijuana and legalization of marijuana, dealing with the regional wastewater facility, the city's growing debt and development in the northwest part of the city. So if your question didn't get answered, please feel free to talk to the candidates themselves. We appreciate these candidates who are participating in our civic process by running for mayor. Tonight, we will also be holding 2 separate forums with city council candidates. In 15 minutes, we will resume with the 5 candidates for the at-large position, and at 8 p.m., we will have the candidates for the central and southeast positions. All of the forums will be rebroadcast on City Link up to the election. Again, the election is April 8th. Remember that you will also be voting for 3 charter amendments, 2 initiated measures, and 2 referred laws, as well as a school board position. Sample ballots are posted at siouxfalls.org, along with additional information on the ballot issues. The Sioux Falls Chamber also has a recap of the ballot issues on their website at siouxfallschamber.com. Again, this program is live on March 19th and will be rebroadcast up until the April 8th election. Thank you for being a part of your city government. And welcome to the 2014 Sioux Falls City Council At-Large Candidate Forum. We have 5 candidates vying for 2 different at-large positions. I'm Amy Scott Stoltz. I'm the moderator for today's forum, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls. Today's forum is being held at the Carnegie Town Hall, where the Sioux Falls City Council meets. Our forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce. We appreciate their partnership and appreciate the participation of the City Council candidates. Our forum is live on March 19th, and if you're watching at this time, you may call in with questions by dialing 367-8080. You may also email questions to clerks@siouxfalls.org. Today's forum is also being web streamed and is available for viewing at siouxfalls.org under the City Council Meetings link under Key Resources. The forum also will be rebroadcast on CityLink Channel 16 several times prior to the election. We hope you will encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to view and become informed voters. Voting is April 8th. The voter registration deadline for this election is March 24th. Tonight, each of our candidates will have 90 seconds for introductions, and as we present the questions, they will each have 90 seconds to respond. At the end of the session, there will be 90 seconds for closing comments. There will be no rebuttal time. We are looking for audience questions. For those of you here in the audience, there are note cards for you to write questions on, and one of our runners will pick them up for you. From there, the League of Women Voter Volunteers will sort the questions and direct them to me. And please note that they need to be directed to all candidates and address issues that may be faced by city government as opposed to issues that would be addressed in federal or state government or by the school board. Please write legibly and realize that we may not have time to get to all questions. As we start, we ask that you turn your cell phones to silent, and if you need to hold a conversation, please do so outside of this room. We're going to start with the introductory comments, and we're going to follow the order in which the candidates appear on the ballot. So we'll start over here with Rex. Mr. Rolfing.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Chamber for putting on this forum tonight. You know, I'm the candidate who remembers when we took a second fiddle to Sioux City all the time. But since 1960, you know, that has dramatically changed, and I want to continue that change. They had a much larger morel plant. They were bigger than we were, and they were growing faster than we were. But that's all changed. Now we're much larger. We have a thriving morels plant. They don't. And we're growing vigorously. I'm sure you've seen all the statistics that go along with that. Financially, we're very sound. We have adequate reserves and a great bond rating. Growth has been unbelievable. I always said if a person or a business is not growing, it's dying. Well, let me assure you, the city of Sioux Falls is not dying, not by a long shot. $580 million of public or of building permits last year, and our infrastructure is being improved all the way along. I think that's very important. These are some of the accomplishments that we've taken on in the last 4 years, both the administration and the council. And I would hope you would agree that you want to continue in a positive movement, in that positive direction in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Reistroffer.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Chamber and all of you for coming, and to the people of Sioux Falls who have helped me get to this point where I want to serve you at a greater capacity. I've been an activist since I was a young high school student, and ever since I've gone out and really been vocal about the things I believe in. And I'm running, not just to state the obvious, but first to give a voice to the young people. I believe I would be the youngest person elected to this council. And when we hear candidates speak about long-term visions, I find it very admirable. We need long-term visioning, long-term planning. But if you want to find one candidate who has, without a doubt, a vested interest in that long-term planning, you need that young person whose generation has that future on the line. When we go to make these decisions, we need to be thinking about my generation. But aside from the obvious, the younger voters, I'm running because I've seen a number of issues that I think represent a disconnect between the current administration and many different groups of the population. We need to diversify this council with different backgrounds and different ideas to really represent all of Sioux Falls. So there's many other reasons, but I look forward to the discussion tonight, and I'm Emmett Reistroffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for putting this on for the Chamber and the League of Women Voters. Thanks, each of you, for coming. I am Manny Steele, and I'm a candidate for the at-large position A. My goal tonight is to give you my background and my experience, and to show you how this background and this experience is relevant to the City Council position. My military service was 6 years in the Navy and 2 years in the South Dakota Army National Guard. My BA is Business Administration. Spent 28 years in the telecommunication industry and 8 years as a state rep for District 12. My committees, while I was there, is transportation, which obviously concerns roads, bridges, also railroads, also airports. One of my other committees was Health and Human Services. The largest employer in Sioux Falls is our medical field. I was also chair of the Retirement Laws Committee. In these 8 years, I've dealt with numerous organizations from the Sioux Falls area and the business people from Sioux Falls. I've worked with them for a betterment of Sioux Falls and for South Dakota. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Erickson.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for everyone coming that are here present, online watching, and those watching going forward, the recordings. Also, thank you for the Chamber and the League of Women Voters. My name is Christine Erickson. I have been a lifelong South Dakotan, born and raised in South Dakota, went to college in South Dakota, and have settled here in Sioux Falls where my family resides at this time. We have 3 young boys that are 8, 5, and 3. I currently serve as District 11 representative and have for the last 2 years. I've done that with great pleasure, and I've enjoyed serving the people of District 11. As you know, serving in the legislature, you serve all the needs of all South Dakotans, even though you only represent such a small district of approximately 24,000 people. My goal is to come locally, be able to give back to a community, and be able to be a part of the conversation that's happening in Sioux Falls and guiding our city in the right direction. So thank you for coming tonight, and I look forward to hearing from your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Thanks again to everyone for coming, and to the Chamber and to the League of Women Voters. Appreciate the opportunity to come and let you hear us and get to know a little more about us. I come to run for this office simply because I believe that Sioux Falls is doing a great job in growth, but we've got to be cautious about that growth. Having been on the Planning Commission now for almost 3 years, the City Planning Commission is those areas where we look at building and expansion of businesses and residential. It's been an eye-opener for me. I certainly have learned a lot about city government in this last 3 years. I'm not an expert yet. I don't know that I ever will be. But I do know that my experience in this Planning Commission has whetted my appetite for doing the job of city councilor. The actual rubber meets the road with the city council. The final hard decisions are made by the city council. And I think my experience and background in government, having served in the legislature like Christine, has well prepared me for this job, and I appreciate being your public servant. Thank you.
Thank you. I will note that the 3 candidates on my left are vying for one position, that's the A position, while the 2 candidates on my right are vying for the B position. We will rotate the order and the questions that are asked. Mr. Reistroffer, we will start with you on this question. What is the city doing to create housing that is truly affordable for people who are earning minimum wage or a little more?
Well, I've seen the city make fantastic progress in a lot of ways, and I really think a lot of that is good. I think that there's more that we can do, and I know there's some folks who are working really hard on that issue. Personally, I think that housing is pretty affordable for most people right now. This is a very affordable place to live. So I think some folks will rally around this issue to really kind of grab onto something. But we absolutely need to take that issue seriously and make sure there's affordable options. Right now, I think I've been to some of the press conferences this year, and I like what the city is doing, and I think the city's moving in the right direction.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you, Amy. The city housing is something that is critical if we're going to continue to expand in Sioux Falls. Now, obviously, it's going to relate to the wages compared to the housing, and there is that need. It was expressed in the Argus here. There was an article where I think it was 5 people that spoke about what do we need in Sioux Falls? What is our needs? And 2 of those 5 spoke to the housing need. So obviously there is a need. I think the City Council and the housing authorities have done a fairly good job on what they have, because I've been to a number of their open houses. And it's really some beautiful buildings that we have established. Obviously, we need more. And that's where our decisions on the board come in, and the housing. We need to do more than what we have so far. It needs to be increased. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. As far as affordable housing goes, currently the tax structure, the way that it's worked, multi-housing is taxed at the commercial property rate. I think that we should take a strong look at that as a city and a state to be able to see if this makes sense. Right now you have the big box stores, you have grocery stores, gas stations, all taxed at the same rate as multifamily housing, non-owner occupied. And I think we need to take a strong look at that, compare apples to apples, see what really needs to be done as far as a possible tax shift. I know that when people are renting an apartment and say it's $700, well, in that $700, that landlord is also charging their tax, anything that they need to recuperate as far as maintenance, and that goes into the bottom line, driving up the cost of rent. So I think we need to take a hard look at where the tax burden is taking place to see if that can be passed on to have more affordable housing for people seeking that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Affordable housing is just that. It has to be affordable. And one of the things I think the City Council can do and should do is encourage as many new businesses into this town that pay a high wage, a living wage, not just minimum wage or something around the $10 an hour mark. When we do that, what we do then is create a society in which people can afford rent or buying a home. And until that happens, it's going to be very difficult for many, many people to live in a decent home or a decent apartment. So one of our focuses, if I'm a city councilor, would be to, encourage those kinds of professional businesses to locate in Sioux Falls, expand in Sioux Falls if they're already here, and I think that'll go a long way into making housing affordable.
Thank you. Mr. Rolfing.
Thank you very much. I've listened to what the other people here have said, and nobody's wrong. Everybody's right in what they're doing there. However, it still comes down to we live in a society that runs on profits, if you will, is open to anybody coming about who wants to take on a challenge. And until we can make it profitable, now it doesn't have to be a huge profit, but profitable for contractors to be in the low income or the affordable housing market, we're going to have a hard time with it. We took a big step with the $500,000 we put aside to help them. I agree with Christine. We need incentives to allow these contractors to go in and build these apartments when they could be building them for regular rents, for market rents, instead of reduced rents. So we need to give some incentives along that way. And I think, like I said, we've done some things already with the $500,000 we set up to get that started. The other thing that we need to continue to do is diversify where these are located, where affordable housing is located, so that we have the schools set up in the correct manner, and they have diversification in the school system. So we have some ways to go. It's a very important issue.
Thank you. This next question will start with Mr. Steele. This is on the downtown trolley. I have a couple questions here. What is the status of the city-supported downtown trolley, and do you support the privatization of the city trolley, and why or why not? Mr. Steele.
Well, I'll comment on privatization of it. I've always preferred to have something privately owned and a private business than a city or a state or a county being involved in it. Any possible way that we can get privatization of this, I would be for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you for the question, and I have to be honest that this isn't necessarily an issue that I have looked into in great detail. I do appreciate the trolley downtown. It is something that I enjoy doing with my children as we tour the sculpture walk and see what's happening downtown. I think downtown is thriving. I think it's great, and I like this option of having the trolley downtown. As far as privatizing it, I would agree that an outside business that could come in and still make it affordable for people to hop on and tour the downtown area is an important thing, as long as it's still affordable for the residents that do want to take advantage of this type of thing that we have downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Well, like Mrs. Erickson, I'm really not prepared for the question, but I think I'd answer it this way. The downtown trolley is public transportation. And as such, public transportation is usually more affordable for people than if it was privatized. I'm also concerned that we may not get a business that would even be interested in that one little vehicle for showing people around Sioux Falls. I don't know that it would be a good business venture for most people. And so, if we want to keep it going, and I think we really do, because as Christine mentioned, it's a great place to take your kids to see the city, and I think that we ought to be very careful before we privatize anything that's a public transportation venue.
Thank you. Mr. Rolfing.
Thank you very much. As downtown thrives and it expands, if you will, and more people are moving downtown, we're going to need the trolley more and more and more. If any of you have been to Denver and gone up and down, I can't remember the name of the street, but they have a electric trolley system going up and down that you can jump on, and it's about 1.5 miles long, and there's 3 or 4 of them going all the time. You can jump on it. We're not there yet, obviously, but the concept is the same. As downtown grows, there will be a box store down there. There will be somebody who moves in downtown, a Target or something like that somewhere along the line, that will even draw more people to downtown. And the city has done a good job of expanding and improving the downtown area. We want to keep that up. And this trolley is a needed part, an essential part of it. So there may be something in the works where it's kind of a private-public partnership, that kind of thing. I would support that area before I would get rid of it.
Thank you. Mr. Reisdorfer.
I grew up just a few blocks from downtown, actually, and downtown has always been my favorite place in Sioux Falls. It's where I spend most of my time. I love the trolley. I think it's a great amenity to have, but I think this question touches on something much bigger. I'm fully supportive of public-private partnerships, and I think we need to explore that concept, not just with the trolley, but with our public transportation as a whole. I believe that when you consider privatization to some degree, whether it's completely privatized or it's a partnership, that you get that profit motive involved, which drives efficiency. And I know a lot of our leaders in the city, there's been task force, there's been a lot of work, a lot of hard work and research going into public transportation right now with some issues facing that area. I haven't heard anyone yet talking about competitive bidding or some sort of process to hear from the businesses. There's many cities the same size of Sioux Falls and much larger, and we're growing, and we should consider what other cities are doing, which is working with private entities to manage something like transportation, whether it's the trolley or all of the buses. I'm open to that idea.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with Mrs. Erickson. This is an emailed question, and I will read it as written. Last night, the council voted to allow the Catholic Diocese to move both the Good Shepherd Center and the Seasonal Salvation Army Shelter to Indiana Avenue. Josh Hager of Franklin Foods warned the council not to proceed without a specific plan for managing this population. How will the Whittier neighborhood be protected from the problems which have occurred at the Salvation Army site? So we'll start with you, Ms.
Thank you. Great question. And I do have concerns with this particular service going in where it's at. I understand it will replace the service that's already there, but the city has a responsibility to make sure there is a plan in place to protect those living around there, those that come to that part of the neighborhood. We just need to protect them, regardless if it's adding lights, if it's policing the neighborhoods with more police on the streets or within the neighborhood at all. We need to be very careful. There's a pool, there's a school, and those kids should be able to feel safe and be playing in their backyards. I can't imagine how helpless one must feel to feel like their kids can't go play outside. I think another idea that would be beneficial in our community is there's been a lot of talk of the trash and the debris that have been on properties from people in the neighborhood. And I think it's a great area for us to focus a partnership with the neighborhood to help in the needs that they see. They've identified several needs with lighting, safety, debris. And so as a city council and as a community, we owe it to that neighborhood to make sure that they feel safe at all times.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
This issue came before us at the Planning Commission here not too long ago, just the last meeting as a matter of fact. And I voted for it. And my comments that evening would be the same to you today, is that I feel the need for this facility would not only enhance the opportunity to remove undesirable elements off of the streets and get them into a safe haven, a safe place where they can be warm, and perhaps even help to rehabilitate some of those individuals. So I looked at it as a positive. I know that the people nearby are still concerned, and rightly so. And I think that we could do what a few have suggested already, is that we could increase our patrols with foot police more often in patrolling those neighborhoods, and those should help to keep any problems from arising. In the larger sense, I think the process is a good one. And we need to make sure that people at least have a place where they won't freeze to death in the winter or roast in the summer.
Thank you. Mr. Rolfing.
Thank you. The vote last night was a tough one on all of us, even though it was a 8-0 vote, because we realized the neighborhood people had real strong concerns. So what we did in the conditional use permit was to indicate that they needed to come up with a security plan and an operational plan and bring it back to us before they could open up that shelter. I think that's very important to remember. We didn't just give it willy-nilly and say, go do what you want, even though the Catholic Diocese has a great reputation of doing it correctly. We listened to the people who were there and said, yes, we know you're going to need some more police. We know you're going to need some more lighting, things like that, and we're going to try and take care of those things. But we also said, you need to go back, the diocese needs to go back to the neighborhood after you get the security plan and the operations plan in effect, and then talk to them about it, see what they would do, and if they have some other suggestions. So they also need to report back to us in 90 days. And in 1 year to make sure that this is going along correctly. So I think the council did a good job last night in protecting both the neighborhood and those people that the Dudley House is meant to protect also.
Thank you. Mr. Reistreffer.
I think this is truly a blessing from the Catholic Diocese and everyone who's been a part of this. Obviously, there's a need if we're working together on that sort of thing. Well, the dirty, ugly truth is that nobody wants a homeless shelter right next to their neighborhood. It's sad. There's a stigma out there on the homeless population. I think much of it's unfair. I think many homeless people are actually working and are trying to get in a sustainable position. So I think this issue has also cultural aspects of it that the council can't address. This is a community issue. My heart's really split on it because I sympathize with the neighborhood and their concerns, but I know there's a need for this. I've seen what we have already with the shelters, and I think that we're moving in the right direction, and as I said, I think it's a blessing. I think this shelter is a good thing, and I don't really have more to say than that.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you. I feel very positive about this as far as the Catholic Diocese taking this over and being responsible. It's another step in the direction where organizations, again, step forward and take a responsibility that needs to be done rather than the government or the city council or the city being responsible for this. Obviously, there's going to be management challenges. The trash is always, the protection. These are items that the diocese is going to have to be responsible for. Now, the city, obviously, will have to continue to be the overseer of this because bottom line is the city is still responsible. So I think it'll be a good thing as far as the coordination between the city and the diocese. There's a need being filled here of certain people that have that need. And I feel, like I said, like I started with, I feel very positive about this. And I'm looking forward to the problems being worked out and we going forward with this. I think it's a good plan.
Thank you. Our next question, we will start with Mr. Pearson. It's on recycling. What can be done to give incentives to individuals rather than the garbage haulers?
Well, I believe that recycling, we need to do probably a better job of educating our public on what needs to be recycled, how it should be recycled, and have an actual educational or promotional campaign to promote that. We've been recycling for years. I've got 6 garbage pails in the side of my garage. I'm not exactly sure what the garbage haulers do with it, but I try to separate the trash. And I think that's a part of where we need to start is educating the public more to the very important need, because it will continue to make our landfill less used, which will cost us less money, and in the long run save the environment. So yes, I think we need to promote recycling as much as we can. The city probably should take a more active role in that education.
Thank you. Mr. Rolfing.
Thank you. I basically agree with what Mr. Pearson has to say. We need to do a better job of motivating our population to recycle. I see bottles and cans and everything else around at different times, although we've increased it dramatically by placing the restrictions, if you will, on the haulers to mandate them to increase the amount of recycling that they have. And if they do that, they're going to have a lower dumping fee at the landfill. I think that's one way to do it. But now we've got to start on you and me. It's got to come down. It's kind of like the old smoking thing, you know, when our kids came home from, and we were still smoking, and our kids came home and they were educated at school how bad it was. We all turned it around and a lot of us stopped smoking. Well, the same thing will happen here with our kids and with everything else. The more education we have about the amount of money we can save by not filling up our landfill, and the good to the environment that we're going to do by doing more recycling, I think it's tremendous. The other thing that we need to do to look at is that single streaming recycling that we have in Sioux Falls is very, very easy. We don't separate glass from plastic, from paper, from everything else. Everything goes together. It's very simple, folks, and we just need to promote it more.
Thank you. Mr. Reistruffer.
I think the only thing that I would add is that in Rapid City, they have something which is called transfer stations. They're recycling and yard waste drop-off centers spread throughout the community. And if we're talking about the individual, not the haulers, what I think is having public places that don't take up much space, where you have the dumpsters labeled accordingly, spread throughout town. It's convenient. Everyone knows where they are. You can drop off your glass or your plastic and your cardboard, different materials that need to be recycled. Let's make it more convenient for the people. I think some people would say they don't even know where to go or who to ask or what to do. So we should consider something like that. It seems like it would be very feasible just to have further spread of the places where you can drop off your recycling.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you. That's interesting. We lived in Irving, Texas for a while, and they had the same setup there. Where they had the dumpsters. You took the glass to that one, the tin to that one, and we would drop it off that way, which may be an option we may want to consider. I appreciate the amount of public information that I do get from the city, because every once in a while, with the bill or with something, there's something in there to remind us to recycle. If we have to build a new dump, we're talking millions. Somebody is going to have to pay that million or millions. One of the things I've never heard much of, but I've thought about is, I like options. If someone does not want to cycle, that means we're going to have a newer dump sooner. Okay, maybe they don't want to recycle. That's their own thing. Fine. Then pay an extra $5 a month and you don't have to recycle. I've never heard that one brought up. Maybe that's something we need to put up to the council. But it's an idea of maybe it'd be $1, maybe it'd be $5. I don't know what the figure would be, but we have actuarials that can figure that out, and maybe that's a route that we need to go. Maybe give the people the option. If they want to pay more, they don't have to recycle. I prefer recycling myself. I do it, and we just changed. And you ought to see this huge thing I got from the new garbage haulers. I'm not sure I can get it between my car and my truck to get it out. I haven't had to try. Thank you.
Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you. Streamlined sales tax. I've got my tax committee on my mind. I'm sorry. The streamlined recycling, is a very simple process. My kids love it. We in our house have 2 garbage cans. One's recycling, one's garbage. And the education begins with our little people. They get some education in school. As adults, we need to model that for them as well to be recycling. Our city is doing a great job, and in 2014, this year, we will have a material recovery facility, and I think that's really exciting. It's something different and new for debris and construction demolition that will be recycled as well. It's a new facility that they've started, and I commend them for doing that. Also, with our environmental items, I think it's so important to make sure people are recycling paint cans, TVs, computers. It's not just our soda cans. It's also the big items that really fill up our landfill. So making sure people understand, hey, we've got an easy place. You just pull up, open up your vehicle, they take it out, you give them your driver's license. It's a very, very easy process. It's located on the edge of town. However, it's easy to get to. And I think it's important to make sure everybody knows where do you go to recycle your TVs, your paint cans, because that's a huge problem with filling up our landfill. So I'd encourage and promote education on that.
Thank you. Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Rolfing. We have 2 questions on traffic. The first,
no, only one at a time. I thought you
we're going to combine these. The first says, stoplights go to blinking too early at night and traffic is extremely congested. This is a bad idea. How can this be changed? And the second question says, as you know, traffic is very congested and the city is making good improvements. How would you proceed on making traffic run more smoothly?
So that's a really good question. One of the ways that we're doing that right now is on East 26th Street with, I believe, what we're calling the smart roadway system, something along that, where the television cameras are placed from east of Cliff to out by Highway or out by Sycamore. That is, from what I understand, I've had some comments on that has dramatically increased the amount of traffic flow at the rush hours, and I think that's very good. We'll be using that again on 41st Street and eventually on Minnesota and all of our main arteries going through Sioux Falls. And that'll allow us not to have to build some roads, expand them, and that kind of thing that we would maybe have to do beforehand. And I think that's a great way to do it. The stoplights at blinking at in the afternoon or in the evening, I think that's late at night, and I think they've studied that and found that it works much better to have flow traffic rather than have the stoplights running all the time. I know back in college there were times when I did that, and it's a pain to be stopped all the time. So running them through is probably a good thing. The congestion we don't really have when you really get the people. We don't have as bad a congestion as we think we do. But one thing I can say is that the planning, when we plan far enough out like we're doing now, we're not going to have another mishap where we don't have an exchange or street running all the way through like we should have 26th or 18th to get to the west side of town. Planning is important.
Thank you. Mr. Reistrofer.
I think this issue kind of branches out in a few different ways. Like Mr. Wolfing said, the planning part is important as we move forward. But as far as the lights now go, I know there's some lights that never go blinking at night when they probably should, like the corner that I grew up on because it never changes. And then there's probably some corners. So what this means is we need to have a dialogue with the neighbors, with the people who are driving on those streets every day. Let's have the people tell us what lights they think need to be adjusted. We don't need to have a one-size-fits-all policy for all street lights. We can change it. Or maybe we need to talk to the traffic engineers about that. But I would just think that it's kind of a case-by-case basis. I think there's some great ideas on the table right now with some of the folks running for council and for mayor with some of the technology that we can explore. There is ways other cities are figuring out. There is opportunities. I think if something is worth investing in with taxpayer money, it is traffic and getting the sensors and the cameras and that sort of thing to make sure the traffic runs smoothly.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you. I find that interesting because I really hate sitting at a red light and there's nobody coming in any direction for a block and you're sitting there. So I like the blinking lights. I don't know who opposes them, but I wish there were more of them a lot of times. But the important thing is for you folks, if this is a problem, either the light staying one way or another too long, or the blinking is at the wrong time of the day or the wrong intersection. That's where the folks give the feedback to the city, and we need that feedback. That's what we need from our people who live here, the citizens. The traffic congestion, we're getting to be a bigger city. This is going to be a perpetual problem. And that's going to have to include the planning as we expand out. Councilman Jameson has mentioned a puck or a block or something that we can put at intersections. I think that needs to be researched a little more to be able to, maybe there's a possibility there that could help on some of these, this congestion that we have to put up with. That's a possibility. So there's ways of improving, and I think this is something we can keep working on and we'll have to continue to work on. Like I say, it's going to be a perpetual problem, and we'll continue working on it.
Thank you. Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you. I do support the blinking lights at the appropriate times of day. If you hit a stoplight at the, I say, wrong moment instead of the right moment, you might sit there for an extended period of time. So to have the blinking light to be able to stop and be able to take off, I think that's a good thing. I think that the city could look into possibly sensors. There are a few streets that I know I sit at for it seems like 10 minutes when you've got 3 kids in the back that are ready to eat lunch. And so these sensors, as you pull forward, you edge forward, edge forward, edge forward, hopefully to trigger that sensor. And I don't know if that even works or not. But that's something looking into for those streets that aren't traveled as often and the lights stay green going in a certain direction for an extended period of time. It is important to take the public input to find out if there are specific streets that are having problems with the lights and the flow of traffic that the city do take a hard look at that.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Thank you. I'm very interested in this because of the fact that I was stuck at 41st in Minnesota not too long ago. And I put my watch on, and it took from the about where Ace Hardware is to get to the intersection 6 minutes. Now, that was a long time. It was about 4:45 o'clock. Now, the lights were changing. but not enough cars could go through. This is a problem that we need to work on with our city traffic department, our traffic engineers. It doesn't need to be that way. I know that we've started a project on 26th. It can't come fast enough for me, at least, to get it to other busy intersections like 41st and Minnesota. The blinking lights are obviously an advantage because if you understand, when it's blink, you stop, and when it's clear, you go. And that would save an awful lot of heartbreak for people that don't like standing like Mr. Steele waiting when nobody else is there. So this is a problem that has solutions. Technology will help us find those solutions.
Thank you. We'll start this next question with Mr. Reistrofer. If the total cost of the railroad relocation project exceeds the $35 million federal earmark, would you as a city councilor be willing to use local tax dollars to supplement this amount?
Well, I would, because the gears are already in motion. And I think that we have already found an amount of funds that were returned to us from the federal government unexpectedly. There is money to work with already in the coffers, so it's not necessarily a matter of taking new revenue sources next year or the year after that. I think it matters on how much over the $35 million we're talking about. But I support the railroad relocation project. So I would be open to finding more sources of revenue to support that.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you. Yes, I would also agree that we, as a city, I think would be a good investment. We've been working on this how many years? I don't know, 8 or 10 years, 6 years, whatever it's been since we've been wanting to move the railroad switching center from downtown. Once we get that out of there, think of the area that we can develop for the development of the economy of the inner city and the downtown. I think this is a fabulous area that we would be able to expand, and we would get our money back, I feel, by the development and the economy that would develop and the revenue that we would receive back from having moved the railroad and got it out of our city and put it someplace else that somebody else is going to be unhappy with. We know that. But that's some of the things that we will just have to work through as we go through the process. And I'd like to see it done. Sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Erickson.
We started this project back in 2005, the city did. And from my last conversation I had in regards to this, the appraisal should be done in approximately 4 to 6 months. If we abandon a project that we've already spent $35 million on to say, oh, we're done, we don't have any more money, I think that would be very foolish for us to do that. We need to look at all ways to be able to, is it tax dollars? Would we maybe get a windfall from other areas? We need to look at all ways that the money would come in, and not just taxpayer dollar. If that's the only avenue, then we need to make sure that makes the most sense and we get the most bang for our buck. But abandoning a project when we've spent $35 million into this project and it's nearly completed would be a disaster, in my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
I totally agree. The railroad removal project needs to come to a finalization, and the sooner the better, because I see nothing but good, positive results. That area could be developed, and the amount of revenues that could be gained, both in taxes and in businesses down there, it's unlimited, the amount of activity that would afford us. And it would certainly do one other thing that I think is very important. It would beautify downtown Sioux Falls. Downtown Sioux Falls is beautiful already, but can you imagine getting rid of railroad tracks and replacing it with wonderful new facilities? I think it's very exciting, and I can hardly wait for it to get finally going.
Thank you. Mr. Relfing.
This one's almost like the event center. We've been working on it a long time. It's time to get it done. And I would agree with everything that's been said here. Although I'm going to take a little different angle on it from the standpoint that I always like to leave myself an out, if you will. And my out would be, yesterday we approved in the consent agenda another $200,000 because we had to have another appraisal done on this property. They tell us one was good, and then they come back and say, well, there's another one here that just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. $200,000 is not a little bit, in my opinion. It was a substantial amount, but we need to get it done to move forward with the project. So the only caveat I would put on what everyone has said here is that if the final appraisal comes back that land is not worth what we really, what the extra would have to be paid, that would be the only thing that would stop me from going forward with this.
Thank you. We'll start the next question with Mr. Steele, and it's on Spellerberg. 2 questions. If voters approve an outdoor pool at Spellerberg, would you as a city councilor vote to also proceed with an indoor pool in the near future? And how do you feel about keeping the outdoor pool at Spellerberg outdoors?
Well, at this point, my opinion is irrelevant because you folks are going to decide very shortly. But to me, it's a concern there. The 2 major problems, obviously, is parking. We're going to infringe on the VA hospital. When we have major events, the traffic flow in that neighborhood is going to be terrific. And that's in my district right now, and I know of a lot of unhappy people if that were to be put there, because that is their neighborhood. That's what they've had for years. They grew up that way, their kids have grown up that way, and I think there's other options. I think there's other places that this could go and should be considered. And I would like to wait and not jump to the conclusion of putting in an indoor pool right there. I think we need to be able to vote and back off of this thing, and because there are some other places where the traffic flow would not be a problem, the parking would not be a problem, and we need to be considering those. And certainly out by the Sanford Sports Center is one place. We would probably have to deal something with the public transportation on that area, but we certainly have the expansion room out there. And I got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you. I do support an indoor pool. I think that a community this size definitely would support an indoor aquatic center. My hope is that where it will be built is one that has room for growth. Currently at Spellerberg Park, I believe it only will take an extra acre of the area that's allotted right now. However, to expand that any further would be really challenging. The sledding hill would stay, the tennis courts would stay, but to expand that any further, there's just nowhere else to go. And so my concern with that exact location is it would be great to put it, I understand that's centrally located, but it'd be great to put it somewhere that we can expand and grow and offer different activities for indoor, for families and for our older community. Like I said, I do support the Indoor Aquatic Center, and I hope that this community rallies around that, and we can try to get some private funds and have this be a public-private partnership to be able to expand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
I believe that we need very certainly an indoor pool in this city, and perhaps not at Spellerberg. And I say that because of this. We would then be investing in a facility that would be useful 12 months out of the year, which to me is more cost effective than spending millions of dollars on a facility that can only be used during the summer months. Our citizens, including myself, could use a facility 12 months a year to help keep some of the weight off. But my wife and I had a philosophy when we were raising our 2 young girls, is that we wanted to keep them as busy as possible in activities at school and outside of school. Working for me, both of them did. And the theory there is that if they were overly busy, they'd be too tired to get in trouble. And it worked. They were never in trouble. I think that we need the indoor pool so we have the opportunity for our children to get good exercise 12 months a year and give them an opportunity to work hard and not get in trouble.
Thank you. Mr. Rolfing.
You know, Denny, we had the same philosophy with our kids, and I think it worked. I think it worked. The things that they're telling me now, I wonder sometimes if they weren't more in trouble than I thought. But Councilman Hunziker did did the study for us, and I don't know if any of you have really taken the time to look at that, but I think if you did, you would realize that study said they had 2 or 3 options in there that they had put together, and one of them was to build a large facility in the middle of town someplace that would serve the whole population of Sioux Falls, rather than having 2 or 3 mid-sized units or aquatic centers around the city. They, in their wisdom, gave us the advice on that to build the 2 or 3 smaller pools, indoor pools, aquatic centers. I happen to like the Spellerberg area. I grew up in that area, and I'm one of the few that remembers when it was being built and what happened before that time when they were talking about it. Exactly the same objections. It'll be disturbing to the VA. Parking will be bad. It'll ruin the park. It did nothing, none of them 50 years ago, and I don't think it'll do it to them now with the studies that we have.
Thank you. Well, that is our time for tonight.
Can I answer?
Oh, my goodness. Did I miss you? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Reister.
I'll be quick. I know there is some passionate opinions on both sides of this issue. That's why it's on the ballot. And I commend both sides for going out and pitching their side. I think we need an indoor swim center. I think we need the right place. To me, it's obvious this is not the right place. That's why there's been a backlash. And I think the bigger issue is not that it isn't the right place, but why are we rushing into it when we're not on an island, we're not limited on land. So we have so much land to work with and opportunities. We don't need the swim center tomorrow in a place which is highly controversial. Let's work together as a community to find the right place. But in addition to that, I'm sorry if this isn't exactly answering the question, but I just encourage all of you to really get involved in how we finance these things as a community. I'm a big supporter of public-private partnerships, and I think sometimes we're in the business of picking and choosing which interest groups we want to make happy. I know there is some other groups that have worked for decades to raise the money they need to build their facilities privately and asked for very little help from the city to make the project final. And the city, in return, gets a great bargain for public use of that facility. In this case, I'm concerned about much, much more than just the location, but also the financing on this project.
All right, we will conclude with that, and I will read you some of the topics that we did not get to questions on today. Maintaining city waterway drainage, the decriminalization of medical marijuana, how would you not be just a rubber stamp for city officials, the Walmart at 85th and Minnesota, and relations between the city and the county as well as the state legislature. If you'd like to address those in your closing comments, you certainly may. We are going to do the closing comments again in the order you appear on the ballot. We will start with Mr. Rolfing.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming down here and being part of this forum. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. I've had a blast the last 4 years. It's been some highs and some real lows, but I really enjoy being part of the city government and part of representing you as an at-large representative or councilman on the city council. It's always good to be part of this and hear both sides, all sides of the issue, and that's something that I've liked to do as part of my being a councilman. I like to listen and hear what's going on and make decisions at that time when you've got all the information possible, rather than doing it ahead of time and trying to have a one-track mind on that. You know, in Sioux Falls, we've accomplished a lot in the last 4 years, both from the administration and from the council side. Some things that haven't been mentioned, like the CVB bid board, some additional low-income housing, the 3,000 jobs. We put in a new IT system throughout the whole city government that's really helped. New zoning ordinances, et cetera. Public health has been expanded, the new library, et cetera. I could name many, many more of them. And I want to continue in this positive direction. Benjamin Franklin said one time, to serve the public faithfully and at the same time please its entirety is impractical. And I guess that's where I'm coming from. None of us can please all the people all the time, but what I pledge is that I will listen and I will do what I can to make sure that we do what is right for the city of Sioux Falls moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reistruffer.
I don't think anyone would argue that Sioux Falls is one of the best places to live. Low unemployment, there's so many good things, setting so many records with construction permits and development. There's so much going on. It's an exciting city. I want to make sure Sioux Falls continues to move in that direction, but I want to be a real game changer with some of these issues that are real close to your hearts. I know there's other activists in the room and watching who have their issues that they care about. I believe we need to get a new voice on the council. With all respect, I think who's on the council now is doing a fantastic job. I think every one of them wants to serve you well. But I think it wouldn't hurt to get some different opinions involved, to get different ideas, to be a part of that process. I just want to be as close to the people as I can and serve Sioux Falls, the city I grew up in, the city that helped shape me to be who I am, and this is how I want to give back. So please help me take my passion to the next level and serve you as an at-large member on April 8th.
Thank you. Mr. Steele.
Thank you. I didn't want to leave the pool situation with anybody thinking I don't believe in an indoor pool. We absolutely need one. So I don't know if I got that clear when I was first talking about it earlier. I've already covered some of my military background, my college background. The telecommunications, I spent 28 years in the telecommunication field. The first half of that was in construction and installation, the outside work, familiar with that. The last 14 years was in the management side, in human resources, dealing with people. Helped to prepare me in that area. As a state representative in the 8 years that I did serve, and I am term limited out, I had 7 races. 3 of them primary, 4 of them general election. The people spoke and sent me back, and I won all 7 elections. I feel very honored about that they had the confidence in me in the job that I was doing. While there, the Transportation Committee I've mentioned I was on, the Health and Human Services Committee, the Retirement Law. I was chair of the Retirement Law, and I found it quite interesting to work out and help with the situation of the Sioux Falls city employees. I don't know if each of you realize, but there was the only town in the whole state of South Dakota that wasn't already under the South Dakota retirement system. And they have an excellent, one of the best in the nation, systems. And to bring the Sioux Falls employees into that, which includes our highway patrolmen, our fire, police. And I'm done already? My goodness. Anyway, I'd appreciate your vote come April 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Erickson.
Thank you. Thanks again for everybody coming this evening. As your council person, I would like to work for you. I want to be your voice. We've seen time and time again that groups of people have banded together to really make changes. We see our election this year is full of referrals from people that are banding together for a cause. And that's exciting. It's exciting that people are working together. They want their voice to be heard, and they're willing to put themselves out there. And I would like to do that for you, being on the council. With my time in Pierre, I was able to gain a vast knowledge of legislation, and through the legislative process, I've made numerous relationships within the state government. Before I stayed home with our kids, I worked for the Department of Revenue for 4 years, 2 years in Pierre and 2 years here in Sioux Falls. And with that, I was able to walk alongside these new businesses to teach them how our state tax and our tax laws work. It's not always something people enjoy talking about, but at the time it was exciting to help these new companies get on their feet, tell them what they need to do and what their responsibilities are, and see them flourish and be successful in our community. One of the things I was passionate about this legislative session was getting behind the expansion of the Gear Center at the research park. This is full. I feel that this would be a huge economic impact to our city and surrounding communities. This offers biomedical engineering type jobs. Definitely not my area of expertise, but I look forward to the expansion of that area and the impact it has. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pearson.
Once again, thank you all for being here personally, and for those of you listening and watching us, thanks. All of my life, I've had a mindset of service. It started with my father. And when he told me, as I started to get into the insurance business, that if you take care of your clients, They will take care of you. My service included teaching children at 3 different schools, teaching math at Stickney and Canton and Mitchell. And then 40 years, don't look that old, do I? But 40 years in the insurance business, and I don't think I'd lasted 2 years in that business because it's very competitive if I hadn't put forth an effort to listen to my clients, hear what their problems were, and then help them find solutions to their problems. I want to carry that over into your next city council. I want to be your city councilor to listen to your problems, to try to find good solutions to those problems. And if you do that, I would very much appreciate being your next city councilor. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate these candidates who are participating in our civic process by running for City Council. Tonight we have already held a mayoral forum, and in 15 minutes we will resume with the City Council candidates in the Central and Southeast districts. All of the forums will be rebroadcast on CityLink up to the election on April 8th. Remember that you will also be voting for 3 charter amendments, 2 initiated measures, and 2 referred laws, as well as a school board position. Sample ballots are posted at siouxfalls.org, along with additional information on the ballot issues. The Sioux Falls Chamber also has a recap of the ballot issues on their website at siouxfallschamber.com. Again, this program is live on March 19th, and it will be rebroadcast on the CityLink channel several times between now and the election on April 8th. Thank you for being a part of your city government. Thank you.
We do have a lot of sample ballots over there.
Okay. You couldn't hear me? Okay, I would like to welcome you to the 2014 Sioux Falls City Council Candidate Forum for the Central and the Southeast Districts. We have 2 candidates for the Central position and 2 candidates for the Southeast position. I'm not Amy, I'm Eileen Van Soest. If you've been watching this or have been here, Amy was a moderator before. I'm Eileen Van Soest and will moderate this forum, and I am representing the League of Women Voters. This forum is being held at the Carnegie Town Hall, where the City Council meets. It's sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce. The forum is live on March 19th, and if you are watching live, you can call in questions at 367-8080, or you can email questions to clerks@siouxfalls.org. The forum is also being web streamed at www.siouxfalls.org under the City Council meeting link under Key Resources. And this forum will be rebroadcast on the CityLink channel several times prior to the election. And we hope that you will encourage your friends and your neighbors and others to watch and become informed citizens. Voting is April 8th, and if you have not registered to vote and you want to vote, you have to register prior to the last day for registration is March 24th. For this forum, each candidate will have 90 seconds for introduction, 90 seconds to answer questions, and 90 seconds for closing comments, and there will be no rebuttal. For those of you who are in the audience here, there are cards available for you to write your questions on. Please hold them up and someone will come and pick them up. They will then be brought to sorters from who are representing the League of Women Voters. And they will sort the questions and bring to me the questions that address different issues that are pertinent to the role of the City Council and issues of importance to the City of Sioux Falls, not issues that relate to any state or federal government. And please, when you are submitting your questions, make sure your questions are addressed to all candidates and not to a specific candidate. For those of you in the audience here, please turn off your cell phones. And if you want to carry on conversations, you can just go out to the other room. We will start with introductory comments, and we'll follow the order that the candidates appear on the ballot. Now, obviously, we have only 3 people up here. The 4th person is Benita Schwan, and she is running in the Southeast District, but she's not able to attend and asked that we read the following. Benita Schwan is unable to participate in the Chamber Forum and Breakfast as she is in Fort Benning, Georgia, attending her son Sam's graduation ceremony from Army Basic Training. Sam has enlisted for 4 years of active duty to be an air medic for the U.S. Army. All right, we will begin with introductory comments, and we'll begin with Rebecca Dunn from the Central District.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you very much to the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event for us this evening, and also to our listeners and all of you in the audience. I am running for the City Council primarily because I honor and respect established neighborhoods in Sioux Falls. And I believe that the council and the mayor should also honor and respect established neighborhoods. In my neighborhood in the historic Cathedral District, I've worked on issues for many years, one of them being when the city wanted to widen 6th Street Hill to make it an easier way for people to get from the east side to the west side. I went to the educational meeting across the street at the Knights of Columbus, and after I listened, I asked if there was anybody that didn't want 6th Street widened, and every person in the room raised their hand. I asked them to come over and sign my piece of paper. We developed a coalition, and we went down and talked with the mayor, about 50 of us, and resolved the issue. We did not want yards shortened. We wanted people, senior citizens, to be able to walk across 6th Street to get to Mass, children to be able to cross the street safely. And we were able to resolve the issue with the mayor. This is why I'm running, because I want us to respect and honor the wishes of established neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
All right, Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you, Eileen. First, I have to apologize for my voice. I do just have a cold, but it doesn't sound very good, and so just bear with me this evening. I'm lots of fluids and all that. I do want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for inviting us to be involved with this. I think education in terms of municipal elections is a huge part of this process, that the people that sit at this table every week are the people that make decisions that affect our daily lives. And so I really invite you to be involved and to be active in this process. And I'm so glad to see the folks that are here. And I know that you're watching on TV and on siouxfalls.org. Really, I'm an advocate for thoughtful community leadership, working toward a prosperous future. This council has accomplished a great deal in the last 4 years as I've been serving, but there's more to be done, and I want to see it through in 3 areas. Number one, I want more access for all residents to safe and decent housing. I've been working with property owners and city staff to improve code enforcement and property maintenance in our core neighborhoods. I'm a strong advocate to end homelessness as a member of the Homeless Advisory Board, and I'm working ongoing to defend affordable projects to provide housing for our residents with the most critical needs. Number two is moving the downtown rail yard, not just for development, but for quality of life issues. And number three is smart zoning ordinances. I fully support Shape Sioux Falls, the Shape Places zoning ordinance that's on the ballot April 8th. And I'd like to talk more about that this evening. Again, thank you for being here, and thanks for your participation.
All right, thank you. Rick Kiley, Southeast District.
Thank you very much. I'm Rick Kiley, and I am running for the Southeast District City Council seat. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity, as well as the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce. This is a great opportunity for all of us. I am a lifelong resident of this wonderful city of Sioux Falls. I was born and I was raised here. I graduated from Sioux Falls of Gorman in 1972. I continued my education at South Dakota State University, graduating with my Bachelor of Science degree in '76, and I was able to continue on and finish my Master of Education from SDSU as well. I was very fortunate in getting my first job here in Sioux Falls teaching at Sioux Falls Lincoln High School, where I taught for 13 years. I continued teaching an additional 20 years at Washington High School, and I retired in 2010, and now I'm working full-time with the South Dakota Safety Council. My father worked at John Morrell and Company for 36 years, and my mom served as a homemaker, which was a full-time job, raising 4 kids. Dad gave back to the community through his participation in the Teener Baseball program, evenings with the Y basketball program, and I'd like to follow his example and give back to this wonderful city. And that's why I am seeking this seat for the Southeast District, to give back, to ensure that everybody has the same opportunity that I have had and that my family has had as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll now begin with the questions, and we have a lot of good questions, so thank you. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond. The order of responses will be rotated amongst you so that you all have a chance to answer first, second, and last. And please adhere to our timers. They're sitting out here in front of you. They will hold up cards that will tell you 30 seconds, and then when it's time to stop. And so I would just appreciate your taking responsibility to adhere to that. If you don't, then you know that I will. ask you to. And just remember, those of you who are watching live on March 19th, call in your questions to 367-8080. Or if you're watching live again, you can email clerks@siouxfalls.org. And we have been getting some good email questions, so keep them coming. All right. We will begin with Rick Kiley, and I'm going to ask this question. What do you see as the biggest challenge facing the City Council?
Facing the City Council, I think, is communication with the citizens of Sioux Falls. I am an individual that believes in collaboration, and much can be achieved through collaborating with not only fellow council members, but most importantly, with the citizens of this wonderful city. We can also extend that to our county governments with Lincoln County and Minnehaha County, which we have to work with cooperatively as well. I like to operate in as transparent manner as possible. I know that it's not always possible to please everybody all the time, but my science background as a biology teacher for many years with the Sioux Falls School District has taught me to base my decisions on factual information, and I can guarantee you that I will do that. I will base all of my decisions based on the information that is presented to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
I also think that one of the biggest challenges that the council faces when I've been talking with the people in the Central District is the lack of communication between the council and the people in the neighborhoods. We would not have all the ballot issues if people were listening, if the council was listening to the people on the front end. I'm a believer in taking care of issues on the front end rather than having to go through all the steps of bringing it to the ballot on the back end. Earlier tonight, someone was talking about how important it was for the county to also be working with the city. And there was an innuendo that they didn't work very well together. I think this is very important, that the council works with the city, they work with the state, they work with the county, and open all doors and listen not only to the people but other forms of government. Thank you very much.
Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you. Great question. Our biggest challenge, and right after this election, we'll begin the 2015 budget cycle. And so there are several key opportunities that the council is going to have to deal with in that budget cycle. Number one is going to be affordable housing, and how do we provide for those folks who are in the most critical need. Number two is going to be the relocation of the rail yard. We're starting to hear now that the costs for that project might exceed what we have from the federal government. Number three is going to be zoning and growth. We're absolutely going to have to talk about that in terms of what we're going to do in the 2015 budget. And number four in the 2015 budget is going to be transit, public transportation for new areas of town, public transportation that serves the current areas of town better. So number one will be for us that 2015 budget, and I think that we really have to start with budget hearings. We have to involve people, and I hope that as we move forward, you'll see how those budget hearings work, that folks do get involved, that we really do spend a lot of time listening. We spend a lot of time in conversation with people, not only here in the council chambers, but in the grocery store, at church, in personal meetings. You know, I spend a lot of time on the phone with folks, and so, you know, it really is a collaborative effort. 2015 budget is going to be the number one collaboration that will start right after this election.
All right, thank you. We'll go to the next question, and Michelle Erpenbach, you will be the first to answer. This has to do with city and county. City and county there needs to be cooperation. At times, there seems to be turf issues. It is important for the cooperation. Is it important for cooperation instead of competition? So just talk about the city-county relationship.
Absolutely, thank you. That also is a really great question because it's one of those that brings up how our state has structured our local governments. You know, state law requires that the counties are in charge of, you know, roads and bridges in the counties. It requires that they're in charge of law enforcement for the county, but also for prisons and corrections in the county, and for social services, including the welfare department, the old term for it. And so what we have to understand is that there are lines that are drawn for us between the city and the county, and that in the budget process, those lines are pretty stable. So what we need to do then is figure out those areas where we can cooperate. And I would disagree that there's some sort of turf war going on, because it is set by law. But when you watch the city and county, we get together here about once a month, Minnehaha County, and about 4 times a year with Lincoln County. It's fascinating to see those relationships. We really do know these people personally. We really do understand how those projects interact. We understand how the needs of the city and the county are different, and we understand the areas where we have to cooperate. And I guess the other thing I would throw out there is that seed that someday, will Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County be one thing? Maybe. And I think it's a conversation that has to start now for something that might happen 20 years in the future.
Thank you. Rick Kiley?
Well, again, it goes back to collaboration, and I had already mentioned in the previous question the importance of city and county governments cooperating with one another as much as possible. And I agree that there are lines drawn, so there are some limitations as to what we can do and what we cannot do. But we have to realize that the decisions that we make as a city can have an impact on the county, Minnehaha County, as well as Lincoln County. And as I understand it, the 4th meeting of each month is reserved to meet with county governments, and I would encourage that we continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
I think I covered this in the last question when I believed that what the council most needed to do was collaborate more with the citizens, with the county, and with the state.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask a question that has to do with representation. How will you balance your role as a district representative with the needs of the whole city? And we will start with Rebecca Dunn.
I think one of the most important things that we need to address is the increase of crime here in Sioux Falls within the last year. Crime has increased by 28.5% in 1 year. I think we need to provide our police officers, and we have an excellent police force, with the resources that they need to address the serious meth escalation that we've had, and also to provide more preventative programs for young people. In my work, I conduct leadership trainings for corporations and also conduct leadership training for teenagers. When I get young people at the age of 10, 11, and 12 and work with them on their self-confidence, their presentation skills, and goal setting, these are not young people that choose to drink and do stupid, as I call it, or do drugs. The consequences of their life is to choose the college they want to go to get scholarships, and end up with a good life. For 26 years, I've seen the young people graduate from my class and go on to tremendous lives without having to go to AA and deal with the repercussions of drugs and alcohol. Preventative works. I've seen it for 26 years. Thank you.
Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you. I believe the original question was about balancing the role of being a district representative with the needs of the whole city. And I've been doing it for the last 4 years, and it's kind of interesting because I really do have to, you don't pander to your district, but you really do focus on your district when it comes to those issues that are most important to your neighbors and your friends and the people that live around you. And so you do spend a lot of time, at least I do, spend a lot of time with central district issues. Lots of things about weeds and sidewalks and all those sorts of day-to-day things. You do that on a regular basis as a district council member. But then you'll remember the rest of the council, there's 5 districts, and then there are 3 people that are at large, and their issues really are somewhat different. You know, you'll see those folks talking from a different perspective. But those of us that are in the districts then also have to be part of that team. And even though there's 8 people up here, 9 with the mayor, 8 people, 9 people with very different egos, very different ideas, we all have to work together for the benefit of the entire city. So when we're here as city council members, yes, we bring our biases from our districts, but we also look at the entire community at large. We spend a lot of time. I know that my colleagues and I spend time driving out into neighborhoods when we're looking at zoning issues. We're driving into neighborhoods. We're meeting people that we've never met before that don't live anywhere near where we do. We do balance district with entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Kiley.
Thank you. I'm sure balancing the role for your district as well as trying to serve the city as a whole at times can be a difficult process. Once again, I would base my decisions on the facts that are available. And I would have to, I guess, weigh the differences. How does it affect my district? How does it affect the city as a whole? Often what is good for the city benefits the district as well. And what benefits the district also benefits the city as a whole. So I guess I would have to just deal with each situation individually based on the information that's provided. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. The next question is going to deal with Spellerberg and the outdoor pool and indoor pool issue. And we'll begin with Rick Kiley. And I'm going to try to put together like 3 different questions I have here. First of all, what are your thoughts on keeping the outdoor pool at Spellerberg Park? And secondly, if voters approve an outdoor park at Spellerberg, would you as a city councilor vote to also proceed with an indoor pool in the immediate future? So what are your thoughts on keeping the outdoor pool at Spellerberg outdoors? And if we approve, the voters approve an outdoor pool, would you as the city councilor vote to also proceed with an indoor pool in the immediate future? And we will begin with Mr. Kiley, Rick Kiley.
Thank you very much. I think everybody, whether you're on one side of the issue or on the other, can agree on one thing, and is that they all want an indoor pool. The issue is, where is it going to be built? And what's going to be built? Actually, what's on the ballot is not an indoor pool, but the construction of an outdoor pool. And I guess regardless of what my personal decision on that is, the city of Sioux Falls and the citizens of Sioux Falls are going to make that decision. And if the outdoor pool passes, especially if it passes by a significant margin, then the city council will have to debate that issue once again and make a decision based on that. If it doesn't pass, then the indoor pool is the same thing. The indoor pool will come before the city council, and we will have to base a decision on the information that's provided for us at that point in time.
All right. Thank you. Finish? Thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
Thank you. As a former competitive swimmer during my youth and early teen years, I had the opportunity to swim at regional meets and national meets. And at these facilities, they're very large, and it's important that they're large because families come, and it's important to have hotels nearby, places to eat, and of course, lots of swim lanes. I definitely support an indoor swimming facility. I think there's lots of people in Sioux Falls that love to swim laps and love to swim and not just splash around in the play pools. With that said, I certainly support the outdoor pool at Spellerberg. I think it was designed for an outdoor pool. I was the aquatics director for 3 summers in Sioux Falls, and I remember even then there were problems with Spellerberg when I was supervising all the
holes. In fact, the pool manager there, when I asked for their critique at the end of the summer, he says, I think we ought to blow up Spellerberg. So, I mean, this all comes back with the Spellerberg issue. But I do support the outdoor pool at Spellerberg. I think it's what the community wants over there, and definitely an indoor facility.
Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you. That's right, isn't it, that Spellerberg is not the most fun pool in town, and it's cold all the time. The reason it's cold all the time is that there's much water draining out of it as it's being pumped into it every day. It's leaking almost all the time, and it's been doing that for a long time. I mean, we duct tape and bubble gum it a lot, but there comes a point when you have to replace a pool. Spellerberg is long past that point. It has to be replaced. Now, Mr. Kiley's right. If the voters decide on April 8th that they want an outdoor pool there, that's fine, and the council will go ahead with that, I'm sure. It does come back to the council to be debated at that point. But I think what we need to look at is that idea that that outdoor pool at Spellerberg or anywhere else in Sioux Falls is only open about 80 days a year. And if you figure out how much that thing costs us to build for 80 days a year, I really struggle with doing that kind of math. It doesn't make sense. It's not a return on investment that I think is smart for Sioux Falls. So absolutely we need an indoor pool. If the people of Sioux Falls decide they want an outdoor pool to continue at Spellerberg, that's one conversation. But if we decide then that we want to do that, would we then also build an indoor pool? I would say no, probably not, because of, again, that amount of money that's going to be involved in doing that project. The way that it's set up to finance the indoor pool now is to take the cash that we have on hand to build that outdoor pool and then add bonding to it to make it happen for an indoor pool.
All right, our next question will go to Michelle Erpenbach first, and this has to do with parks. Lots of attention has been paid to the pool issue, but what about overall park plan? What are we doing about developing all green spaces, expanding bike trails, exploring new community park ideas?
Oh, my favorite question. I spent almost 5 years as a volunteer member of the park board, and I really learned the ins and outs of how we plan a park in Sioux Falls, and it's an amazing process. And actually in that 5-year period of time, I saw some projects go from just drawings on paper to actual things that we use, amenities in our parks, and it's an amazing process. And you're right. In Sioux Falls, we love our parks. We want them to function for us. We love our bike trails, and we want them to be bigger and farther and reach into other communities. All of those things are on the drawing board. You know, sending the bike trail all the way to Brandon, sending the bike trail to Harrisburg, sending the bike trail to Hartford. All of those things are in conversation. It's just a matter of coming to the point where we have the budget money to do that. So absolutely, when we talk about park planning, we have to look, and especially in the neighborhoods and in the core parts of the city where our green space is limited, we have to consider how do we maintain those parks? How do we rehabilitate those parks, as you'll see we're going to do with Lion Park this summer at 14th and Phillips. How do we then also provide more green space in some of those neighborhoods that just don't have green space at this point? Pettigrew Heights in particular has really no park space at all. So we have to think about how we're going to make that happen. It's going to take collaboration, it's going to take some planning, and it's going to take budget to make it happen. But I think it's a priority for Sioux Falls.
Thank you. Rick Kiley?
Thank you very much. Parks are one of my favorite topics when it comes to the city of Sioux Falls. I grew up basically in the park in South Sioux area, Dan Dugan Park. Every day we headed from our home on Prairie Avenue over to the park, and we spent countless hours there, day and night. I think that the park system and the bike trail in particular are the crown jewel of this city. And people that are residents of the city of Sioux Falls and visitors to the city of Sioux Falls benefit from our parks. And I think we are really known outside of this community for our park system. Parks are really a quality of life issue. And I think it speaks very highly to the city that we have what we do today. The parks benefit all people, absolutely everybody in this community, regardless of economic status. Everybody can take advantage of a park. I think we need to expand as the city expands, and we need to also maintain our existing parks too. And hopefully as the city expands, our tax base is also expanding with it. That enables us to do so.
All right, thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
I think all three of us agree that when you add beauty to the community through beautiful parks and flowers and gardens, it enhances the lives and the quality of life of all of the participants. I would expand on this, though, that I believe that we need to enhance the beauty in the entrances to Sioux Falls. Particularly coming in from the airport, I think is just an eyesore. Every time I get off the plane and get in my car and drive back to my home in the historic district, I think this is such a blight. In the city of Cortona in Italy, they have big trees, one of them for each young man that was killed in World War II. So coming into the entrance of the city of Cortona, or the town of Cortona, there are these beautiful trees. I would suggest that we do something like that on Minnesota Avenue. Build trees all the way down Minnesota Avenue so that whatever time of year you're coming in, it looks beautiful. I think this would greatly enhance, start with Minnesota Avenue from the airport and then go on to the other entrances into the city as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question will begin with Rebecca Dunn. This has to deal with the area of homelessness. Please address your view of the city's role and responsibility regarding people who are homeless and transient.
It's a very challenging question because all those people were probably like us at one time and went through some hard time, ended up homeless and alone, and are experiencing a hard time. I worked in a shelter in Dallas when I was living there, and one of the things about that shelter that was so proactive was that all the people that lived at the shelter had to go out every day on 3 interviews. They had training, this is the part that I was involved in, training them on how to interview, what kind of attitude you had when you went in for training. And when you came back to the shelter, you had to prepare the meals, you had to clean up, you had to make your bed, and you had to participate in that homeless shelter. I don't think it does them any good just allowing them to come in, lay down, get up, and go out and drink or whatever else they're doing. So, what was the question again? I get carried away.
Address your view of the city's role and responsibility regarding people who are homeless and transient.
We need to help them, yes, but we also need to help them help themselves, like we did in the shelter in Dallas.
All right, thank you. Michelle Urbanbach.
Thank you. It was 8 years ago that Mayor Munson created the county city cooperative board called the Homeless Advisory Board, and that organization has the 10-year goal of ending homelessness in Sioux Falls, and I don't know that we're going to make that, but the things that have happened with that organization over the years include the safe home where the most chronic homeless have been provided housing, and so that they're out of the elements and are working toward rehabilitation in those cases. The other piece that we have to remember is that we have a really strong network of private nonprofit organizations that are providing not only training and rehabilitation, but shelter for homeless families, homeless individuals in our community. And I think it's important for us to understand that the city really has no role officially in doing anything about homelessness. But because of that cooperative agreement created by Mayor Munson 8 years ago, and I've been serving on that board for the last 3 years, the Homeless Advisory Board does allow us to collaborate with the county in those situations where, one of the great examples is the Bishop Dudley House that's being proposed by the Catholic Diocese. That is a cooperative program between the city and the county that will help transform lives will make a difference for those people that are our friends and neighbors. They are citizens of our community. They are not those people. They're people who live among us and deserve that respect.
Rick Kiley.
Thank you. This obviously was a big topic of discussion at last evening's City Council meeting. I think we do have a responsibility to serve the homeless individuals that live and reside in our city. I do not agree or agree with the assumption that because an individual is homeless, that necessarily they are a menace to the community. Number one, I think we need to provide affordable housing as much as possible. And we can do that through, as Councilor Erpenbach had mentioned, we can do that through private means as well as working with other public entities such as the county. We can work with the multi-housing association as well to help provide affordable housing located throughout the city and not just in a central region. I think shelters such as the proposed Bishop Dudley House will help with this particular issue, but there are other issues separate from that, and I think some of that is the city's responsibility to ensure that we adequately enforce and police the area so that the focus isn't just on the homeless individuals. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We're going to switch now to the Walmart issue, and Rick Kiley, you will be first. Are you for or against the Walmart at 85th in Minnesota and its proximity to single-family homes? Rick Kiley.
Well, once again, this is an issue that is on the ballot, and it's going to be decided by the citizens of Sioux Falls. Thank you very much. Having a cold can be kind of an irritation in a number of ways. I apologize for that. But this issue will be decided at the ballot box. And I do believe in this particular case that the 85th and Minnesota area, it's reasonable to think that it's going to be commercialized. To what degree, I guess, is going to, as I mentioned, is going to be determined by the citizens of Sioux Falls. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
I was really intrigued to run for the city council when I was asked by this coalition, the Stopping the Walmart Coalition, to speak in front of the city council because of what we were able to do in the historic district in not expanding 6th Street and making it wider. I was so surprised when I came in here and saw all the charts, and the council and the mayor had practically done everything but build the Walmart and put the food on the shelves rather than talking to the people in the neighborhoods, that neighborhood specifically, and what was going to happen to those people when a big store comes into their neighborhood. It doesn't matter whether it's an affluent neighborhood or not. Their rights should be respected and honored. They do not want Walmart there. And I respect their wishes.
Thank you. Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you. I was one of the 7 people that voted in favor of changing the zoning for the land at 85th and Minnesota, and I stand by that vote at this time. Mr. Kiley's right. It's a logical place for that sort of development. Somebody in a previous forum this evening said, some of our votes are really hard, and that was one of them. It's one of those that you lose sleep over. It's one of those that I waffle down to the last minute. But we have to understand that when we talk about land use, it's an ongoing process, and it really is a plan that we have to work together, and we have to work it collaboratively and cooperatively. So I think that the people of Sioux Falls have already voted for a Walmart in Sioux Falls with their pocketbooks. We have 2 of the busiest Walmarts in the world in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And I understand that that fits into a whole lots of other, issues in terms of living wage and quality of life and those sorts of things. But the people of Sioux Falls and the people in the surrounding areas shop at Walmart. And this is the logical place for that to happen. I'm sorry that the folks in that neighborhood chose to go against what the original zoning was, and they did make choices about their own land use. And that's when it comes down to private property rights in South Dakota. We rely on that. We rely on it for those private homeowners, and we rely on it for those folks that want to develop into commercial areas. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question will be in regard to the relationships between the City Council and the Mayor. And we will start with Michelle Erpenbach. How do you see the role of the City Council versus the Mayor? How are they to work together? And how are they meant to be checks and balances for each other?
Well, the charter is pretty clear about the roles of the mayor and the city council. The mayor is we created it when the citizens voted to become a home rule community with a charter. The charter was set up to have a strong mayor form of government. That means that the mayor is the administrator, that the mayor runs the day-to-day operations. And the charter is even so specific as to control the amount of time or the amount of income that the city council members are using in terms of their relationship with the mayor. And so the payment to the mayor's income and the council income is a percentage, so that the citizens are very clear that strong mayor form of government. All that being said then is that you talk about administration and daily, that's all with the mayor, and the mayor also develops a budget. But the city council then has that final say in not only what the budget, what each individual line item is, but what are we going to appropriate for that funding. And the city council deals with policy in terms of how do we want this community to grow, how do we want it to function, and so then the mayor and the administration carries that out. You know, with this mayor in particular, this council, I look at us a lot of times as sort of loyal opposition. I think that's really our job. That's really that question about checks and balances, is that we're all working for the same people. We all have the same boss, but we all have these different ideas. How do we bring those ideas together collaboratively and make it work for the community?
Thank you. Rick Kiley.
Again, I have to agree with what Councilor Erpenbach stated, that the citizens decided on a strong mayor form of government, and that's what we do have. However, the council is here to serve as those checks and balances, and it is important that the mayor and the council work in a collaborative manner. As I'd mentioned in my opening statements, I believe in collaboration, and the more we can work together, the greater the city of Sioux Falls benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
I believe that the city council should have a separate voice from the mayor. I was in the Senate for 8 years during the Janklow years, and I had the occasion to visit with Janklow on the floor and off the floor on many occasions. We were separate. The House and the Senate are a separate body, and the governor is a separate body. I believe the same thing with city government. The mayor should not be calling all the shots with the council. And sometimes when you look at the roll call with the council, it looks like he is. The votes are 7-1, 7-1, 7-1. And I wonder, where is the council's voice? Where's Kermit? When Kermit was in the legislature, he was asking questions all the time. This is what the city council should be doing, is representing the people, asking the questions you want to be answered, and at least getting the questions out there.
All right, thank you. The next question will deal with the railroad relocation. If the total cost of the railroad relocation project exceeds the $35 million federal earmark, as a city councilor, would you vote to use local tax dollars to supplement this amount? And then another question, will the people of Sioux Falls get to be allowed to vote on how that property might be used? Oh, I guess I should call on Rebecca Dunn. I'm sorry.
Would you repeat the question?
Yes. If the total cost of the railroad relocation project exceeds the $35 million federal earmark, as a city councilor, would you vote to use local tax dollars to supplement this amount? And then will the use of that property come to a vote of the people?
Well, first of all, in response to the question about the cost of the relocation of the $35 million, yes, I do support whatever it's going to take so that we can do the relocation of the railroads. That area is going to be developed, and when it's developed, there's going to be much more tax money coming into our community, and that money can be certainly used to pay for any extra expenses for the railroad relocation.
All right, thank you. Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you. Railroad relocation has been a hot topic for me for longer than I've been on the City Council. It's one of those issues the community's been talking about for a long time. But I'm uncomfortable saying right now that I would spend more than the $35 million that's been earmarked. It is $35 million that's a federal earmark that has been given to us to use for this project only. So if it's going to go over that, this group is going to have that conversation. I'm not going to say right now that I would absolutely do it or absolutely not. But on the other hand, it is a project that I really want to see happen. And I want you to remember that it's not removing all the railroad tracks from downtown. It really would leave one, and in some places, 2 tracks. But it is moving that switching yard, so it's that movement of trains back and forth. That's what we're taking out of there. We're just moving trains more quickly through downtown. So if it happens and we decide that we want to spend extra money, if we need the extra money, if it happens, the other question was, will that property use go to an election of the citizens? And I think that's maybe a really great idea in terms of, what are we going to zone it? Are we going to zone it commercial? Do we want commercial that close to the Whittier neighborhood? You know, one of my big concerns now, especially in the Central District, is how close are we to becoming one of those communities with a donut hole of blight in the central part of the town? I really want to see that area developed so that we don't end up being one of those communities where blight is pervasive in the central. Thank you.
Rick Kiley.
Thank you. Number one, I certainly support the redevelopment of the rail yard. It's been a painfully long process, much of it delayed by environmental issues and studies, unfortunately increasing the costs to the city to redevelop that area. We would have to, in terms of using tax dollars to supplement, we would have to weigh the differences. What's the payback if we do? Can we recoup that money by increasing the tax base? And I would say that if we could do that, then I would be in support of that. As far as the people voting on how the property would be used, I guess much of that would depend upon whether they were satisfied with the decision that the City Council made. As we know, that decisions that the council makes can be referred, and I'm 100% behind referrals and giving the city, the citizens, an opportunity to have their voice as well. I guess part of that is kind of a hypothetical question, and I like to deal with factual information, so I'd have to deal with that issue once it's presented to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question, and this may be our last question, well, go first to Rick Kiley, and this has to do with boundaries and annexation. How do you plan to work with area governments when expanding city limits? How will you work with the residents who are being annexed? Rick Kiley.
Well, number one, when property is annexed into the city and then developed, much of that development is determined by the infrastructure that is already in place, and or what needs to be extended in order to serve that annexed community. I'm not in favor of annexing property that's well outside the limits that's going to end up costing each one of us additional tax dollars. Because if we annex an area and we develop it commercially in an area that's far off site, the city is responsible for extending the infrastructure out to that point. The developer is only responsible for that point of connection. And in all the years that pass in the meantime, the citizens are responsible for the cost of that because there aren't any adjoining property owners. In terms of working with citizens, I do believe that the individuals have to have a seat at the table, and we have to be more transparent with these projects, and we have to develop strategies that make them more aware that these projects are on the table. I think we can improve in that particular area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rebecca Dunn.
I believe, going along with my belief of honoring and respecting the neighborhoods, if you're going to go in and bring something new into that neighborhood, the same with boundaries and area governments and annexing them. I think you need to go to the individual who owns the land, go to the people who it's going to affect the most by changing that area or changing their boundaries and talking with them first before you come in and start making plans about what you're going to do with that property.
All right, thank you. Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you. You know, that's been one of the interesting things about being on the council is I've learned about this cooperative agreement that we have between Minnehaha County and the City of Sioux Falls and between Lincoln County and the City of Sioux Falls. There's a 3-mile radius around the city where we share zoning conversations. So we get together once a month, and if somebody wants to change zoning within that 3-mile radius, they have to get approval not only from the county but from the city as well. So it's interesting how we've brought those, how the people who've gone before us have brought those ideas together so that we really do listen to those folks that are involved with those areas that are nearest to the city limits. You know, state law requires that we annex only contiguous property, only property that's already touching the city limits. So that kind of defines what we're looking at. But then we had an interesting meeting, it's been about a month ago now, where city staff brought in neighbors from Cactus Heights, which is the old, in the northeast part of town, the old golf course, and they started talking about annexing, and they're 10 years or more from being ready to actually annex that property. But they've started the conversations with those folks now. And they're involved with, you know, well, yeah, we're going to need sewer. How's the sewer going to get there? Well, it might come this way, it might come that way. You know, and it's going to cost this X amount of dollars if we did it now, or X amount, you know, it's going to increase over time. Those processes are fascinating to watch, but it takes years and years and years and lots of collaboration with elected officials and the people in the neighborhoods, and it works really well in Sioux Falls.
All right, thank you. Okay, we now are going to go into the closing comments part of this forum, and we will again, closing comments will be as your names are on the ballot. So first will be Rebecca Dunn.
Thank you. Rick and I grew up, he was on Prairie and I was on Summit. In the morning we both probably took off to Terrace Park and spent the day there and came home at 6 o'clock. We didn't call home every hour or check in. Our mothers weren't hovering over us because we were safe. We were safe. I'm not pretending that we can go back to Mayberry, but I would certainly like our children to live in a safer community than they live in now. Change has shaped a new Sioux Falls than when I grew up, and I'm concerned that the new shape continues the quality of life, the safety, and the opportunities which are good for the city. Growing up in the Cathedral Historic District, I know how safe neighborhoods contribute to the higher standards of education, and education and there's higher standards of living for the people of Sioux Falls. And I want to contribute to the culture of strong neighborhoods in Sioux Falls. Let's stop giving our freedom of movement to the criminals. Let's take our freedom of movement back, whether we're men, women, or children. We deserve it. It's our city, and I think we ought to run it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Michelle Erpenbach.
Thank you again for participating in this educational program, and for the Chamber and for the League of Women Voters for hosting us. You know, I'm going to paraphrase Winston Churchill when I say, he said, the kind of leadership that inspires followership is the kind of leadership that puts service above self. And I think I try really hard every day to kind of live that. I work really hard. I treat every Tuesday night meeting as a final test. You know, I do my homework. I spend time in conversation with those folks that are most affected by it. And I focus on our community. I enjoy hearing citizen concerns. I spend a lot of time in conversation with people. And I really want us to continue to work toward a thoughtful community development, toward a prosperous future for our city. You know, we've got amazing things going on, and it's not time to just kick back and say good enough. It's time to, again, push forward thoughtful, prosperous future. I'd remind you then that early voting begins on Monday, March 24th. You can do that at the Minnehaha County Administration Building. That's the blue building at the corner of 6th and Minnesota. Election Day is April 8th, and I would appreciate your vote in the Central District for City Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rick Kiley.
Thank you. Once again, I'd wish to thank the League of Women Voters and the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event. Again, I am a lifelong resident of the City of Sioux Falls. I'm not in this race because of any burning issue out there, but rather I would just love to give back this community that has provided me with an abundance of opportunities. I do have priorities other than what we discussed this evening that we did not have an opportunity to address. They would include streets and public transportation. Our public transportation system is under stress, and I've got ideas and thoughts on how we can help with that situation. Public safety, police, and fire. The men and women of our police and fire departments deserve our support, and the citizens of Sioux Falls need to feel safe in this city, and I would support them 110%. Workforce development is something that hasn't come up at all this evening, and I think that is very vital to the continued growth of this city. We must be able to provide a trained and qualified workforce for not only our existing businesses, but if we are to attract new businesses. And if we attract new businesses, we expand our tax base, and we all will benefit. There's a number of other items that I could address, but I will run out of time. I'm Rick Kiley. I'm a candidate for Southeast District City Council. I would appreciate your vote on April 8th.
Thank you. All right. We appreciate you for participating in our civic process by running for the City Council. And by golly, I really mean that. Tonight we've had forums for all of the City Council members and for the mayoral candidates. Remember, all of these will be rebroadcast on CityLink. In addition to the candidates you've heard tonight, remember you'll be voting for 3 charter amendments, 2 initiated measures, 2 referred laws, and a school board position. And I would just remind you there are sample ballots on the table as you leave. If you would like to take them, you can learn more about the election. Sample ballots are also available and information at the SiouxFalls.org and also at the SiouxFallsChamber.com. And again, thank you all who are in the audience and those of you who are viewing this on TV. Thank you for participating and for being involved in our city's government. And as Michelle Erpenbach said, please vote on April 8th. Thank you.